Chapter 2173. The policeman obviously knew them. He couldn't help but be respectful in his tone, but he was very nervous in his heart. Could it be that someone was blind enough to provoke President Nangong? My grandfather had a car accident. The man said coldly. What? The old general had a car accident? The policeman was surprised. If the old general had a car accident, why would they call the police? Even if they did, they would look for the traffic department. What did it have to do with them? My grandfather had a car accident. Not only did this unfilial son not help me, he even brought a woman to anger me. This woman even hit me. Bring her to the police station now. The man had one hand behind his back. His face was cold and stern. His face was pale. Hong Wan's kick, just now, was not light. The policeman was shocked. Someone actually dared to go against CEO Nangong? And she was the woman of the young master of the Nangong family? Mr. Nangong, don't worry. We will handle this matter impartially. The so-called impartially was to teach this woman a lesson and help Mr. Nangong vent his anger. Who dares come? Nangong Yuni's gaze was cold. His cold eyes swept across the group of policemen. His lips curled into a sarcastic smile. You don't even ask what happened and want to take her away? Is this how the police work? Moreover, Hong Wan was defending herself. The policeman was stunned. He hesitated for a moment. Although he was afraid of the CEO of the Nangong group, he was a public official. He needed to care about his reputation. If this woman really hit him first, it would be pardonable no matter how they took her away. But if it was self-defense, it was hard to say, humph. The man snorted. It's natural for a father to hit his son. You disrespected your mother and sister. Shouldn't I hit you? Who does this woman think she is? She dares to stand up for you? Hearing this, the policeman finally understood what had happened. So Mr. Nangong wanted to teach his son a lesson, but he was beaten up by his son's woman. This was indeed the woman's fault. What did it have to do with her? Did he need her to stand up for him? Also, the man regained his senses and said immediately, my grandfather was forcefully dragged into the emergency room by a woman. I suspect that she wanted to murder him. I hope you can convict her of murder. What? The policeman was shocked when he heard this. Murder of the old general? This crime was enough to sentence her to death. Quick, go and open the door of the emergency room. If that woman dares to resist, shoot her immediately. The leading policeman waved his hand and ordered. But before they could reach the door of the emergency room, they were blocked by a figure. Yin Xiao was expressionless, and his expression was cold. Anyone who takes a step and will die. At this moment, his body emitted a cold and gloomy aura, causing the temperature outside the corridor to drop by a few degrees. It was so cold that it made people shiver. The group of police officers had never seen someone as arrogant as Yin Xiao, so they were momentarily stunned. Even those criminals didn't dare to say such arrogant words to a group of policemen. How dare the man in front of her be so arrogant? In reality, these policemen didn't know that Yin Xiao wasn't a person of this world. The mainland he was in didn't have any laws, and the strong were respected. As an expert, he had the right to decide the life and death of others. In their eyes, the weak were no different from ants. Chapter 2174. Get out of the way. The policeman instantly pulled out a gun from his pocket. If you don't get out of the way, I'll shoot. Thinking about the old chief's safety, the policeman couldn't help but look anxious. Yin Xiao didn't know what he was robbing, but he could feel that the thing in the policeman's hand wasn't a threat to him. If Nangong Yuni wasn't worried about the old man's safety, he might have laughed out loud. Who is Yin Xiao? One of the only two true gods in the 7 continents. The bullet couldn't even touch the hem of his clothes, so how could it threaten him? They were really a bunch of people who had never seen the world. Seeing that Yin Xiao's expression didn't change, the policeman's hand trembled slightly. To be honest, he had just gotten this gun and hadn't had the chance to use it. But he felt a little guilty if he really had to shoot her dead on the spot. So, the policeman had only wanted to threaten Yin Xiao at first. But Yin Xiao didn't bat an eyelid. I'll give you one more chance. Get out of the way right now, or I'll really shoot. The policeman gritted his teeth and warned her fiercely. But the emergency room's door opened, and an old voice came from inside. Who are you going to shoot? His voice was very calm, but it also gave off a very oppressive feeling. The policeman's hand that was holding the gun suddenly trembled, and he almost pressed down on it. Luckily, he stopped in time. At that moment, everyone's eyes turned to the emergency room, and their astonished gazes fell on the old man who walked out of the emergency room like the wind. Beside the old man, Yun Luofeng stood silently. She turned her gaze and saw the policeman pointing a gun at Yin Xiao, and her eyes slowly turned cold. "Dad, are you okay?" The man recovered from his initial shock, and his eyes flashed with joy. He quickly walked over to the old man. "I thought you were hopeless, but now you—" After saying this, he paused and turned to the woman beside him, frowning slightly. Could it be that this girl really had medical skills? Yin Xiao. Yin Luofeng had already walked to Yun Zhao's side, and a pair of sharp eyes swept over the policeman, scaring him so much that he almost dropped his gun. "As a public official, how dare you point a gun at others? Who gave you the right to do so?" The old man's voice turned cold. It was hard to imagine that just a moment ago, this old man was lying on the sickbed, half dead. Now, not only could he walk on his own, but he could also speak so forcefully. No matter how good his medical skills were, it was impossible to have such an effect. Hong Wan's eyes flickered. If she did not see wrongly, when the old master walked out of the emergency room, Zhao Meishue and her daughter did not look relaxed at all. Instead, they looked furious. It was supposed to be a joyous occasion that the old master had come back to life, but in the end, they were still so angry. It seemed that this car accident was not as simple as it seemed. This is a medical miracle. The doctor gradually came to his senses, and his face was full of joy. "Miss, can you tell me what you did to the old commander? This is even more magical than divine pills and miraculous medicines." "No comment," Yin Luofeng said indifferently. What did she want to tell these people? She has elixirs? Put the gun down. When the old general saw the police officers with guns, his voice was filled with anger. "If you hurt a good person by accident, you'll be in court." Chapter 2175. Hearing this, the policeman immediately put down the gun in his hand, and his face unconsciously overflowed with cold sweat. "Old chief, I heard someone report to the police that you were murdered, so I hurried over. Please don't blame me." "Humph." The old chief snorted, his face expressionless. "Just because someone reported you, you pointed your gun at the people of Huaxia? You don't even need to investigate? Is this the attitude of a group of public officials?" The policeman's expression was somewhat awkward. "Wasn't the person who reported you your son? Otherwise, how could we trust others so easily? Get out of here." The old chief's voice was awe-inspiring and had the awe-inspiring aura of a general. Yes, that policeman wiped the cold sweat on his forehead and was about to turn and leave when a voice slowly came from behind him, with a slightly cold aura, causing his body to slightly tremble. "Wait." The policeman's body trembled, and he somewhat stiffly turned his head and chuckled. "This time, it was indeed my negligence. Miss, do you have any other requests?" Whoosh! A gust of wind suddenly blew over, and the policeman only saw a white figure suddenly disappear. When he recovered his senses, the gun in his hand was gone. At this moment, his heart stopped beating. His hand was still holding the gun, and his head involuntarily slowly raised, falling on the woman's gorgeous face, and he fiercely swallowed his saliva. The ice-cold muzzle pointed at his head made his hair stand on end. All the blood in his body froze, and his stiff body couldn't even move. "In the future, if you point a gun at my people's heads again, then I will make your head become like this gun." Bang! Yin Luofeng's hand suddenly exerted force. The gun in her hand, like a bubble, suddenly turned into powder and fell from her palm to the ground. If it was said that Yin Luofeng's action of snatching the gun made him feel frightened, then this action almost made these policemen cry. Each of them scowled miserably, and their expressions were extremely aggrieved. What was going on? Was this woman still a human? She was even more terrifying than a demon. The old chief's expression was also astonished, not to mention the action just now, which was hundreds of times more powerful than that of a special forces soldier. Just the action of crushing the gun made his heart almost stop beating. If the country had such a talent, How could it not prosper? Scram. Yun Luofeng's single word was akin to amnesty, and those policemen scrambled to escape. Their movements were comparable to a gust of wind, afraid that if they were not careful, Yun Luofeng would crush their heads. Compared to the police's fear and the old chief's excitement, Zhao Meishue and her daughter's expressions were extremely ugly. Nangong Yuni actually had such a friend? Why had they never heard of it before? Luofeng. Hongwan faintly smiled and slowly walked towards Yun Luofeng. She raised her eyebrows and smiled. What do you think? Did you see your teacher? In fact, Nangong Yuni knew that the first thing Yun Luofeng would do after returning to Huaxia was to look for her esteemed teacher. So he called his teacher. Sure enough, he found her. Yun Luofeng nodded. You haven't told me what happened. For example, your family. Her sharp gaze shot toward Zhao Meishue with a cold glint in her eyes. Zhao Meishue and her daughter seemed to have thought of her action of crushing the gun just now. They were so scared that they trembled and didn't dare to say a word. Chapter 2176. However, from the beginning, Nangong Lan's eyes never left Yin Xiao. Nangong Yuni scratched the back of his head and smiled. It's a long story. I'll explain it to you when the time comes. After saying this, he looked up at the old general and smiled. Grandfather, are you all right? Haha. Thanks to this lady, I'm safe and sound. However, Yuni, don't you want to introduce her to grandfather? The old general's eyes were all smiles. He didn't even look at Zhao Meishue and her daughter. His gaze was on Nangong Yuni. The old man wasn't biased. He just hated Zhao Meishue interfering in other people's families. Moreover, compared to his grandson, Nangong Yuni, he really didn't like Nangong Lan. Nangong Lan was too scheming. He really couldn't like her. If his son hadn't insisted on marrying Zhao Meishue, he wouldn't have allowed Zhao Meishue to enter the Nangong family. This is my classmate at Huaxia University, Yin Luofeng. The other is her husband, Yin Xiao. As for Hongwan, Nangong Yuni turned to look at Hongwan. He couldn't hide the smile in his eyes. Perhaps she will become your future granddaughter-in-law. Hongwan blushed. She glared at Nangong Yuni, but didn't say anything to refute. Ha! The old general laughed excitedly. His laughter was full of energy and was rather hearty. This girl isn't bad. My grandson has good taste. I like her too. Zhao Meishua's expression was originally very ugly, but after hearing this, her gaze became even gloomier. She was just a wild girl with an unknown background. How did she enter the old man's eyes? She was the daughter of the Zhao family, but she hadn't received the old man's attention all these years. The funny thing was, Zhao Meishue seemed to have forgotten that Nangong Yuni was unmarried. So the girl he liked would naturally receive the old man's respect. But she had interfered in someone else's family. If she didn't respect herself, how could she receive the respect of others? If there's nothing else, Yin Xiao and I will leave first. Nianfeng and Chu Tian are still waiting for us outside. Yin Luofeng looked at Nangong Yuni. Those two little fellows were curious about everything. They refused to follow her to the emergency room and instead played outside. However, after all, this was not the 7 continents. Yin Luofeng was worried about these two little fellows. After treating the old man, he said goodbye to Nangong Yuni. Wait, I'll go with you. Hong Wan's gaze shifted. When she saw Yin Luofeng and Yin Xiao walk out, she immediately chased after them. In a lobby of the hospital, Hong Wan rushed over to Yin Luofeng in a few steps. Luofeng, I have something I need your help with. Yin Luofeng stopped in his tracks. He turned to look at Hong Wan and asked, What is it? Lend me a gold-seeking mouse. Gold-seeking mice? Yin Luofeng raised his eyebrows. All right, I'll give Ming Ming to you. No matter what, Ming Ming is the princess of the gold-seeking rat clan. Using her is a waste of her talents. You could just give me any one of them. Besides, Hong Wan's lips curled up into a smile. Are you willing to give me milk tea? Yin Luofeng grunted, but did not say anything more. Milk Tea and Ming Ming had known each other for more than 10 years. The next time she returned to the 7 continents, she might as well settle their marriage. That way, Milk Tea wouldn't always look at her with those resentful eyes. Luofeng, Aren't you going to ask me why I need the gold-seeking mice? Hong Wan muttered to herself for a while before asking. Chapter 2177. You rarely speak to me. Since you spoke, it must be something important. Only the gold-seeking rat can help you. Over the years, she and Hong Wan had understood each other very well. If the situation wasn't serious, she definitely wouldn't speak to her. Actually, Hong Wan's eyes flashed. I feel that Nangong Yuni's family's old man's car accident isn't simple. I suspect it was done by his stepmother, so I want the gold-seeking rat to follow them and eavesdrop on their conversation. Yun Luophone blinked. Do you need a recording pen? A recording pen? Hong Wan's eyes flashed with confusion. What's that? I can't explain it in a short time. When the time comes, I'll let the gold-seeking rat bring the recording pen to you. Just as Hong Wan was about to explain, a scolding voice suddenly came from the front. Where did this little bastard come from? How dare you touch my child? I'll teach you a lesson in place of your mother today. After this shrewish voice fell, another stubborn voice came. My mother said that it's the father's fault for not teaching his children. Your son is so lustful at such a young age, and he even wanted to take advantage of Tiana. I'll only push him away. There's nothing wrong with it. Great, you still dare to twist words and force logic. I'll definitely teach you a lesson today. Yin Luofeng's expression darkened bit by bit. He raised his head slightly and looked in the direction of the two voices. In front of him, Yin Chutian hid behind Yun Yinfeng amidst the crowd. He blinked his doe-like eyes and stared at the shrew-like woman in front of him. This woman was around 40 years old and held a little boy wearing Adidas in her arms. However, this little boy's face was filled with tears as he wailed loudly. The surrounding people were pointing and gossiping. That woman didn't know shame and went forward to pull Yun Yinfeng. Yun Yinfeng clenched his fists tightly. If it wasn't for his mother telling him that he couldn't casually kill people in China, he would have killed this woman long ago. Whoosh! Just as the woman rushed in front of Yun Yinfeng, an arm suddenly reached out from the side and pulled Yun Yinfeng and Yun Chutian into an embrace. The woman couldn't stop in time and fell to the ground with a plop. The onlookers couldn't help but burst into laughter. Their laughter made the woman fly into a rage out of humiliation. She immediately crawled up from the ground and glared angrily at the man in black standing in front of her. My husband is the deputy director of this hospital. How dare you attack me in the hospital? I'll ask my husband to kick out the patients in your hospital. This was the inpatient department of the hospital, so people who came here must be visiting patients. However, her husband was very powerful, so he just needed to find an excuse to kick them out. At this moment, an indifferent voice came from behind. Master's wife, you're really impressive. I don't know when teacher became the deputy director of the hospital. The woman was about to lose her temper, but when she turned to look, she saw a familiar face. She screamed, "Ghost!" The onlookers were shocked by her. Just as they were about to scold her, they suddenly saw the woman walking towards the woman. The woman was dressed in a white ancient costume. She was peerless and instantly attracted everyone's attention. Who is this woman? Is she husband and wife with this man? Tisk, these two really match each other when they stand together. No wonder they're such a beautiful Wawa. As expected, they have good genes to give birth to such a fine breed. Chapter 2178. Quick, take a picture and post it on Weibo. Even those movie stars aren't as beautiful as these two. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that they're a celestial couple from a book. Some people had already taken out their phones to take pictures of the family of four and posted them on the internet. Feeling the flashing lights of those phones, Yin Shutan hurriedly raised her hand to cover her eyes. The flashing light made her very uncomfortable. Are you a human or a ghost? The woman asked through gritted teeth. Yin Luophone smiled sweetly. Have you seen a ghost before? How dare you come out in broad daylight? Not a ghost. The woman was stunned, but she was relieved. You're not dead? Whether I'm dead or not doesn't seem to have anything to do with mistress. I just want to know, when did your husband become the vice dean? After saying this, Yin Luophone looked at the little boy in the woman's arms and raised his eyebrows slightly. This little guy seems to be 4 years old, right? In other words, you've had him since I disappeared? The woman looked a little embarrassed. If Bolu didn't think you were dead, he wouldn't have fallen out with the principal, and he wouldn't have been suspended with a random excuse. You still have the nerve to ask me now? Suspended? Yin Luofeng was stunned. Why didn't Master tell her about this? Moreover, Master was a professor in a high school. How could he be suspended just because he said so? There had to be some reason that she didn't know. Mistress, Yin Luofeng paused and said, you mean that you can share blessings with Master, but you can't share joys and sorrows? Back then, as a university professor, my teacher brought you great honor, and you enjoyed everything that she had obtained. Now that my teacher has been temporarily suspended, you immediately abandoned her and followed some vice dean. Am I right? You. The woman was so angry that her face turned green. She never thought that she did anything wrong. Who asked Fu Lu to be suspended? How could she be blamed for this? Suddenly, there was the sound of footsteps. When a woman looked up and saw a middle-aged man walking over, joy flashed across her face. She immediately said, Hubby, you're here. Chunhua, I heard that someone bullied our baby's son. His gaze swept around and stopped on Yin Luofeng, Yin Xiao, and the others. His eyes flashed. No matter what happened, it won't be good to do it in public. Can you come with me to my office to talk? Oomph. As long as they went to his office, no matter what they did, wouldn't he have the final say? If he wasn't afraid of the repercussions, he wouldn't have been so polite to this group of people in public. So you guys also know that the influence is not good. The corners of Yin Luofeng's lips curled up. His gaze rested on Shui Chuanhua's beautiful face. Just now, your wife was shouting and yelling, making trouble for no reason. Why doesn't she know that this is a bad influence? Actually, there was a huge age gap between his teacher and his wife, and it was his wife who had chased after him. There was a gap of more than 10 years between them, so the teacher loved his wife dearly. He was never willing to let her do any work, and he would always hand in his monthly salary. Even when the teacher's wife used the salary to buy skincare products and cosmetics, the teacher had never complained. Even if he and his daughter had to live frugally, he had to satisfy all of her vanity. Therefore, his wife took good care of herself. Even though she was over 40 years old, she still looked like she was in her early 30s. It was no wonder that she could seduce the vice principal. The vice president's eyes darkened as he glanced at Shui Chunhua. Chapter 2179. She had already told him many times not to be too close to Zhang Yang when they were outside. Yet, after taking over this woman, he turned a deaf ear to her words. What is it? He asked in a low voice. Shui Chunhua glanced at Yin Luofeng, then at Yin Yinfeng, who was in Yin Luofeng's arms, and said, This brat just hit our son. I just want to teach him a lesson. Who knew? The vice dean had a son in his old age, and he doted on his son very much. Now that he heard Shui Chuanhua's words, his expression didn't look too good. Miss, you were in the wrong first. Your son hit someone. Are you going to let it go just like that? Nonsense. Yin Yinfeng saw Shui Chunhua distorting the truth and immediately broke free from Yin Luofeng's arms. His face was full of anger. You can ask the others what happened just now. If this bastard didn't want to bully my sister, why would I push him? The vice dean was startled. He suppressed the unhappiness in his heart and continued. No matter what the truth is, please come with me to the vice dean's office. Yin Luofeng pondered for a while and nodded slightly. Okay. Seeing Yin Luofeng nod in agreement, the vice dean was delighted. As long as they followed him, he would have the final say in anything that happened. Wan take care of Tian and Yinfeng. I'll go with Yin Xiao. It wasn't good to let her son see her beating someone up. She had finally erased the lustful factor of her son, so she couldn't let him be violent. Okay. Yin Xiao nodded and walked to the vice dean's office with Yin Luofeng. Looking in the direction Yin Luofeng left, Yin Yinfeng's lips twitched. Mother is so bad. She doesn't let me watch every time she abuses someone. I want to participate too. It was fine if she didn't let him look at beauties, but she also didn't let him beat someone up. How could he live like this? Tian you weren't hurt just now, right? Yin Yinfeng walked to Yin Shutian's side and even took the opportunity to touch his little hand. That slippery little hand made him smile with satisfaction. Hong Wan noticed Yun Yinfeng's little action, and a trace of awkwardness appeared on her face. This fellow, at such a young age, already knew how to take advantage of others. Just now, he even scolded others with righteous words. Yun Chutian blinked his eyes. With Brother Yinfeng here, I'm not afraid of anything. Although, she could rely on herself, but she still liked the feeling of being attached to her brother. Yun Yinfeng didn't care what Yun Chutian was thinking. He took the opportunity to pinch Yun Chutian's little face again. The soft feeling in his hand made his heart burst with joy. His mother had stopped him from taking advantage of other beautiful girls, but he still had Tian'er by his side. In this world, other than his mother, Tian'er was the most beautiful. Cough, cough. Hong Wan could not stand it anymore. She coughed dryly and said, Yinfeng, it's not good to be flirting with girls at such a young age. Tian'er is still immature. We can talk about the future when you grow up. Although Yun Luofeng had selfish motives in marrying Yun Chutian to Yun Yinfeng, they were still young. Who knew what would happen when they grew up? Therefore, as for the future of these two, it would depend on their own development. This was also why Hong Wan was unhappy with Yun Yinfeng taking advantage of Yun Chutian. Aunt Wan, why can't Brother Yinfeng come into contact with Tian'er? Didn't Mother say that Tian'er will follow Brother Yinfeng for a lifetime? Yun Chutian tilted his head and asked in confusion. Chapter 2180. She still didn't understand what love was, but she understood that she had to follow Yun Yinfeng for the rest of her life. You don't understand these things now, but you'll understand when you grow up. Hong Wan awkwardly brushed him off. She couldn't explain this kind of thing. They had to wait until they grew up to figure it out. Aunt Wan. Yun Yinfeng tugged on Hong Wan's sleeve and pointed at a woman in revealing clothes in front of him. Aunt Wan, look, why is that woman wearing so little clothes? Isn't she afraid of the cold? Also, her chest is so small, not even half of Mother's. Yun Yinfeng pursed his lips. He had secretly seen his mother bathing before. Oh, right. He hid under the bed with Tian'er and saw his father pressing down on his mother with his own eyes. Of course, if Yin Shao knew about this, it wouldn't be as simple as banishment. The woman in front of him seemed to have heard Yun Yinfeng's words and immediately turned around, glaring at him fiercely. That fiendish gaze made Yun Yinfeng jump in fright, and he pursed his lips in grievance. Aunt Wan, did I say something wrong? Yun Yinfeng. Hong Wan's expression was a little ugly. If you say another word, I'll go back and tell your great-grandfather that you were the one who broke his precious teacup. Yun Yinfeng trembled in fright and hurriedly shut his mouth. He smiled awkwardly. Aunt Wan, I didn't say anything. You must keep a secret from me. I promise to be obedient. Hong Wan held her forehead. She suddenly felt that giving birth to a son was very tiring. This little fellow wasn't as obedient as Tian'er at all. It was fine that he caused trouble in the 7 continents. But when he came to this place, he couldn't control himself either. In the vice president's office, the door was slammed shut with a bang. The vice president looked coldly at the man and woman who walked into the office, a sneer on his face. Tell me, how do you want to compensate me? Compensation? Yin Luofeng raised his brows and asked. Your son hurt my child. Don't you need compensation? Let me tell you, if you don't give me an explanation today, I'll kick your patient out of the ward. Yin Luofeng was stunned, and surprise flashed in his eyes. Kick out of the ward? Nangong Yuni's grandfather? Old general? The vice president saw the surprise in Yin Luofeng's eyes and thought she was afraid. He said sarcastically, since you're in the inpatient department, you must have a relative in the hospital. Even if it's not a relative, it must be a friend or relative. If you don't apologize to my son and take out some compensation for the psychological damage, I'll get someone to kick you out immediately. Hearing this, Yin Luofeng's lips curled up slightly. This is a society governed by law. Is it not against the law for your hospital to publicly expel patients? The deputy director sneered. There are many ways to expel a patient. I said that his condition is too serious and can't be cured. Our hospital is short of beds, so naturally, we can't let him occupy a limited space here. Do you think anyone will say anything in this way? Yin Luofeng smiled and looked at the deputy director. Huaxia Hospital has always been a famous hospital, but a parasite like you has appeared. I'm afraid we have to get rid of you today. What do you want to do?" The vice president saw the threatening light in Yun Luofeng's eyes. This is a society governed by law. Would she dare to make a move? For those who abide by the law, of course I will abide by the law. For people like you, why would I need those laws? When Yun Luofeng's words fell, the man beside him suddenly disappeared and immediately appeared in front of him. Chapter 2181. The deputy director was scared out of his wits. This speed was too fast. Was he still human? Boom! Just as the deputy director was in a state of disbelief, he was kicked and his body slammed into the wall. He screamed in pain. But Yin shouted and stopped. His movements were as smooth as flowing water. He hit the deputy director so hard that he couldn't even beg for mercy. His whole body was in so much pain that it felt like it was going to fall apart. Shui Chunhua was stunned. The child in her arms curled up tightly. She was so frightened that she couldn't say a word. After a long while, she reacted and quickly rushed out of the door. But just as she reached the door, she saw the woman in front of her glare at her coldly. With just one glance, she felt as if a hammer had ruthlessly smashed into her body, causing blood to gush out of her mouth and her face to turn deathly pale. How? How is this possible? She didn't even touch the corner of her clothes. How could she have injured her? Could it be? Were there really martial arts masters like those on television? At that moment, footsteps could be heard outside the door. Soon, the footsteps were right in front of him. With a bang, the locked door was kicked open. But when the footsteps were heard, Yun Xiao had already stopped and returned to Yun Luofeng's side. Hence, when those people stepped in, they only saw the deputy director and Shui Chunhua moaning on the ground. They didn't see Yun Xiao's actions. What happened? The leader was an elderly man. His expression was solemn and his gaze was cold. "Director!" The deputy director immediately stood up and pointed angrily at Yun Luofeng. "These two people are so bold. They dared to attack me, the deputy director, in the hospital. Call the police and arrest them." Attack? For a moment, everyone's gazes fell on Yun Luofeng. "You said we hit you. Where's the evidence?" Yun Luofeng asked with a faint smile. "You actually asked such an idiotic question. The injuries on my body are the evidence." The deputy director angrily lifted his clothes, revealing his hairy body. But there wasn't even a trace of injury on his body. Seeing this, the dean's face darkened. "Fu Dong, are you kidding me?" Fu Dong was stunned. He looked at his own body in astonishment. When he saw that there was no trace of his chest, he was dumbfounded. "No, that's impossible. He clearly beat me up, so why am I not injured at all? This is impossible. How could this be? Why were there no marks on his body, but his whole body was in pain?" "Headmaster," Shui Chunhua bit her lip and said, "I can prove what my husband said. Just now, Yin Luofeng didn't even touch me, but she used some unknown method to injure me." Yin Luofeng smiled. She glanced at the ashen-faced dean, and her lips curled up. "You said that I didn't touch you, so how'd I hurt you?" Shui Chunhua said angrily. "How would I know?" The dean's expression became more and more unsightly. Seeing that these people were getting more and more outrageous, he immediately shouted, "Enough! Do you think I'm a fool? He wasn't injured at all, yet he said he was injured by someone. I heard that our Huaxia hospital is bullying others. Shouldn't you give me an explanation for this matter?" Chapter 2182. Director Shui Chunhua panicked. Just as she was about to say something, she saw the director's sharp gaze and immediately shut her mouth in fear. Just then, a doctor rushed in from outside the door. He said while panting, "Director, the old general has woken up." "What?" The director, who was about to reprimand him, snapped back to his senses when he heard this. He looked at the doctor behind him in disbelief. "What did you say? The old general has recovered?" To be honest, although the director had sent the best doctor in the hospital, the old general's injuries were too serious, so he wasn't very confident. Now that he heard that the old general had been cured, he was momentarily stunned. It's true, the old general was on the verge of death just now. If he didn't make it through tonight, he wouldn't have been able to be saved. But just now, A lady suddenly appeared and used some unknown method to save the old general. That lady. The doctor was about to praise the lady who had saved the old general when he suddenly noticed Yun Luofeng standing at the side. He was instantly stunned. The director was still asking, "What happened to that lady?" The doctor looked dumbfounded at Yun Luofeng, who was standing at the side. His gaze was a little dazed. "Director, do you know this lady?" The director was a little baffled. "What do you mean?" This sentence made the doctor snap back to his senses. His gaze was a little stunned. "Director, this lady saved the old general." "Why? You don't know her?" When he saw this lady in the director's office, he thought they knew each other. The director was stunned. The deputy director and Xue Chunhua were dumbfounded. Only the little boy nestled in Xue Chunhua's arms didn't know what had happened. He looked at Yun Xiao and Yun Luofeng with a little fear in his eyes. "Dr. Lu, are you sure the old general has recovered?" The director snapped back to his senses and turned to ask Dr. Lu. Dr. Lu hurriedly nodded. "Just now, I checked the old general's body again and discovered that he has completely recovered. He doesn't even need to be hospitalized. This is a legend in the medical world." The director's gaze was filled with shock as he slowly turned to Yun Luofeng. There was an uncontrollable joy in his eyes. "Miss, how did you manage to cure the old general? How could a dying car accident victim recover so quickly? How could this be called a miracle? It was practically a god descending to the world to be able to do this. Therefore, the headmaster would definitely not let go of such an opportunity. Dr. Lu, are you saying that she cured the old leader? That's a joke. She's just a little girl. How could she have such power?" The deputy director snapped back to reality after being stunned for a moment. Unless it was God, it was impossible for the heavily injured old chief to recover. Moreover, how long had it been since the accident? Even surgeries would not be this fast. Dr. Lu's expression didn't look too good. "Deputy director, what I said is the truth. If you don't believe me, you can go and have a look. Moreover, this lady is here to visit the old chief." Compared to Yun Luofeng's medical skills, what shocked the deputy director even more was that Yun Luofeng's visitor was the old chief. Oh my God, did he just say that he wanted to kick the old general out of the hospital? Thinking of this, the vice dean raised his head mechanically. His astonished gaze slowly fell on Yun Luofeng's face. When he saw the woman's forced smile, his heart trembled and his face turned deathly pale. Chapter 2183. What happened? After seeing the deputy director's pale face, the director's face darkened. Did this idiot say something again? Yun Luofeng rubbed his chin and said, "Nothing much. It's just that the deputy director of Huaxia Hospital said that he wanted to kick my patient out of the hospital. But now that the old general has recovered, there's no need for him to stay in your hospital." When the director heard this, he was furious. He glared at the deputy director and gritted his teeth. "Did you say that?" Not to mention the old general. Even if it was a normal patient, he didn't have the right to kick him out. "Director, I'm innocent," the deputy director said with a sad face. "Don't listen to this little girl's nonsense. How would I have the guts to say something like that? She's trying to frame me." Hearing this, the director frowned. He hoped that the deputy director was innocent. Otherwise, the reputation of Huaxia Hospital wouldn't be good if word got out. But just as the director was hoping for luck, Yun Luofeng took out a phone from her pocket. This phone was given to her by her teacher when she left the apartment. It was convenient for her to contact Nangong Uni. She didn't expect it to be useful now. So, at that moment, the deputy director's ferocious voice came from the phone. "Oomph, your son hurt my son. Don't you need compensation? Let me tell you, if you don't give me an explanation today, I'll kick your patient out of the ward. You're in the inpatient department, so you must have a relative in the hospital. Even if it's not a relative, it must be a friend or relative. If you don't apologize to my son and pay for the psychological damage, I'll get someone to kick you out immediately. This is a society ruled by law. Isn't it illegal for your hospital to kick out a patient?" "Hee, there are many ways to expel a patient. I said that his condition is too serious and can't be cured. Our hospital is short of beds, so naturally, we can't let him occupy a limited space here. In this way, do you think anyone will say anything?" With each word that was played from the phone recording, The vice president's face turned paler. When the last word fell, his legs gave way, and he fell to the ground with a thud. It's over. This time, it's all over sure enough. After hearing this, the dean flew into a rage. Fu Dong, I didn't expect you to do such a thing. I saw it today, but what if I didn't? How many mistakes have you made? If I continue to keep you, then you'll be a parasite in Huasha Hospital. Sooner or later, our hospital will be ruined because of you. Dean. The vice dean's body trembled. His throat was a little dry, and in the end, he couldn't say a word. The director didn't even look at the deputy director. He turned to look at Yin Luo Feng and asked with a smile, Miss, I know you don't want to reveal the method you used to treat the old leader, but can we have a discussion about medical skills? Huasha Hospital was the most famous hospital in Huasha. This was especially so for the dean, whose medical skills were extremely exquisite. But even he couldn't pull the old commander back from the brink of death, but this little girl had done it. How could he not be shocked? He was not willing to let go of such an opportunity. Yun Luo Feng shrugged his shoulders and exchanged glances with Yun Xiao beside him. I'm afraid I don't have time today. If there's a chance in the future, we can discuss it together. Chapter 2184. The dean wanted to say something, but Yin Luo Feng didn't give him the chance. He turned around and was about to leave. She had to go back and ask her teacher what had happened. The dean looked in the direction Yin Luo Feng left. Although he felt it was a pity, he didn't say anything. He turned around and looked coldly at Fu Dong, whose face was full of despair. You're a parasite of Huasha Hospital. You're here to ruin our reputation. From now on, you're no longer the vice dean of Huasha Hospital. Fu Dong's legs were a little weak. His throat was dry. He opened his mouth several times, but he couldn't say anything in the end, because he knew that even if he begged for mercy, it would be useless. Bang! The dean left and slammed the door. Fu Dong stood up awkwardly and began to organize his belongings. Hubby, Shui Chunhua bit her lip and said, Don't worry. Even if Huasha Hospital doesn't want you, you can still work in another hospital. Shut up. Fu Dong threw the things in his hand and roared. If it weren't for you, would I have been fired by the dean? You still have the nerve to say such things? I've already been fired by Huasha Hospital. My reputation will also be spread. From now on, which hospital would dare to take me in? Shui Chunhua's face was pale. She didn't expect things to be this serious. She suddenly became anxious. Then what should we do? How are you going to support me and our son without a job? Suddenly, Fu Dong raised his head and stared at Shui Chunhua fiercely. Are you thinking about leaving again? Back then, didn't you seduce me because your ex-husband lost his job? Do you think I don't know about this? If it weren't for the fact that you gave birth to a son, I wouldn't have let it go. Looking at Fu Dong's red eyes, Shui Chunhua took a few steps back guiltily. Hubby, what are you talking about? How could I leave you? Bang! Fu Dong suddenly stepped forward and grabbed Shui Chunhua's clothes. He punched her head. Shui Chunhua's head was bleeding and her eyes were full of fear. Hubby, I'm warning you, now that I don't have a job, don't even think about leaving me. If you dare to have any evil thoughts, I'll kill you even if I have to lose my life. His eyes were bloodshot, and Shui Chunhua was so frightened that she didn't dare to say a word. The little boy beside her also burst into tears. Fu Dong snorted and flung Shui Chunhua away. Pack up my things immediately. From tomorrow onwards, go out and find a job. Your monthly salary cannot be lower than 5,000, or else I'll beat you to death. Fu Dong vented his anger on Shui Chunhua. Shui Chunhua did not resist, nor did she dare to resist. She quietly tidied up her personal belongings on the table with her head covered in blood. At this moment, she actually missed her ex-husband. Perhaps in this world, there was no one who treated her better than her ex-husband. Even when she betrayed her ex-husband, he was not willing to lay a finger on her. He just silently let her go. More importantly, Yin Luo Feng had returned, and he had even saved the old chief's life. If she hadn't divorced her ex-husband, would everything have been different? Would she still be that pampered wife? Unfortunately, there were no ifs in life. If she did something wrong, she had to pay the price. Chapter 2185. After stepping out of the hospital, Yin Luo Feng flagged down a taxi and gave the name of the small district according to his memory. In just a quarter of an hour, the taxi stopped at the entrance of the small district. Blur! Just as he stepped out of the taxi, Yinfeng couldn't help but vomit. His little face was deathly pale and his lips trembled slightly. Mother, what kind of spiritual beast was that? Yinfeng feels so bad. Oh, Yin Luofeng grunted. Then call me a taxi. All right, let's go find my master first. Once you familiarize yourself with this world, you won't be so afraid anymore. After saying this, she raised her head and swept her eyes over the silent Yin Xiao. This man's mental fortitude was too strong. No matter what he saw, his expression did not change, and he didn't even ask her a single question. Yin Xiao, After Yin Luofeng had called his name, he had responded softly. However, those words seemed to have been squeezed out from between his teeth, and Yin Luofeng sensed that something was wrong. You, don't tell me you're also carsick? Yin Zhao's expression finally showed a hint of change. His grim features seemed to crack as he nodded with great difficulty. Also, I don't like the air here. Yin Luofeng curled his lips into a small smile. After a while, we'll go back after I've avenged myself. All right. After all, Yin Xiao wasn't from this mainland. When he had just come into contact with the mainland's air, he would certainly not be very used to it. However, he had been forcing himself to adapt to everything here all this time. Under Yin Luofeng's lead, the few of them had already entered the small district. Even though this small district was very old and seemed to have been around for quite some time, in Huaxia's capital where every inch of land was worth its weight in gold, even an old district was worth tens of millions. Fortunately, Yin Luofeng's memory had always been outstanding. In just a short while, she had already reached the door. She raised her hand and knocked on the door. Coming. A clear voice sounded from behind the door. When the door was opened, a mischievous little girl poked her head out. When she saw Yin Luofeng standing at the door, shock flashed across her large eyes. Your elder sister Luofeng? Ching, long time no see. Is teacher home? Fu Qing's eyes widened bit by bit, her pretty little face filled with shock. Sister Luofeng, is it really you? Just now, my father told me that you were still alive, but I didn't believe him at all. I didn't expect that. You really didn't die? By the way, these are... Her large eyes swept over Yun Xiao and his son, her gaze filled with curiosity. He is your brother-in-law, and the other two are your nephew and niece. Nephew and niece? Fu Qing was dumbfounded as if she was struck by lightning. Sister Luofeng, you actually have such a big child? Could it be that you hooked up with brother-in-law in school? And they even gave birth to a child? Oh my God! No wonder you faked your death and disappeared. Fu Qing took it upon herself to find an excuse for Yun Luofeng's revival. After all, although there was an explosion back then, no one saw her body, right? However, Yin Xiao was very unhappy with the word hookup that Fu Qing used. His relationship with Yin Luofeng was open and above board. How could it be seduction? Teacher isn't home? Yin Luofeng glanced inside the house and asked. Fu Qing nodded. Dad went to buy groceries. He'll probably be back soon. Sister Luofeng, hurry in and have a seat with brother-in-law. I'll pour you a cup of tea. Chapter 2186. Yin Luofeng didn't stand on ceremony. After Fu Qing finished speaking, she immediately walked in. Ever since she left the orphanage, she grew up in her mentor's house. She and Fu Qing were like sisters. It was just that her mentor's wife wasn't satisfied with her existence, and it was her mentor who insisted on keeping her. Thinking back to the past and seeing everything familiar in the room, Yin Luofeng's heart warmed, and her lips curled into a smile. It felt good to be back. Sister Luofeng, please have some tea. Fu Qing wore an apron and walked to Yin Luofeng's side with a cup of tea. She had an innocent smile on her face, and it was obvious that she was inexperienced. Qing, can you tell me what's going on? How did your dad get expelled from Huaxia University? Yin Luofeng frowned and asked. Fu Qing froze and bit her lip. Sister Luofeng, not long after you were in danger, Dad made a mistake at work, and someone reported him for hooking up with a female student. Yin Luofeng's face darkened. Teacher wouldn't do such a thing. At the mention of this matter, Fu Qing was very angry. Dad, definitely wouldn't do such a thing. He was framed. We all know about this, but the school still suspended him from his position without any explanation. Hearing this, Yin Luofeng's face became uglier and uglier. After a long time, she said, I just met your mother at the hospital. She said that teacher was suspended because of me? What? Fu Qing was furious, and her little face was red. You met that woman? Don't listen to her nonsense. She's lying. She also knows why Dad was suspended. This has nothing to do with you. Yin Luofeng pursed her lips and didn't say anything. No matter what the reason was, she wouldn't let go of the person who caused her teacher to be suspended. Also, Fu Qing said angrily, back then, Dad had only been suspended for a few days, and she ran away with someone. More importantly, she knew that Dad didn't do such a thing, but because Dad couldn't give her a good life, she left. This kind of person doesn't deserve to be my mother. Fu Qing got angrier as she spoke. She would never forgive that woman in this lifetime. Yin Luofeng caught some clues from Fu Qing's words. She frowned and asked, Your mother doesn't seem like someone who trusts teacher that much. Why do you say that she knows that teacher didn't do such a thing? At that time, our family of 3 was together. In the end, someone took a video and posted it online. There was a date and time on the video, so I could confirm which day it was taken. That person did look like my father, but I could tell that he wasn't my father. Yin Luofeng had his suspicions from the start. No matter what, Huaxia Academy was still a high school, and it was impossible for them to casually suspend a professor. Looking at it now, it turned out that the professor had been framed. Since the 3 of you are together, there should be an alibi for the teacher. After Yin Luofeng said this, Fu Qing bit her lip and shook her head. Apart from me and that woman, there is no other proof. And because we are relatives, our words cannot be trusted. Yin Luofeng did not continue on this deep topic. She and Yun Xiao looked at each other, a cold glint hidden in their eyes. No matter who it was, she wouldn't let them off for framing her teacher. Qing, you should be in university by now, right? Which university did you go to? Yin Luofeng's face returned to a smile as she asked. Chapter 2187. The smile on Fu Qing's face froze, and she lowered her head. Huaxia University. In reality, she didn't want to go to Huaxia University, but her father wouldn't let her give up such a good school and insisted that she enter Huaxia University. In order not to disappoint her father, she could only enter this school. However, in the school, everyone knew that she was Fu Ru's daughter. Countless rumors and curses came one after another, and she had no human rights to speak of in this school. If it weren't for her father, she would have given up long ago. Luofeng, you're here? At this moment, the door was opened, and Fu Ru appeared at the door, carrying a basket of groceries. When he saw Yin Luofeng, there was no surprise in his eyes, and he said with a smile, I guess that you would definitely come to my place for lunch. You guys wait here first. I'll go cook. Teacher. Yin Luofeng stood up and smiled faintly. It's getting late. You don't have to busy yourself. Let's go eat. Fu Ru was startled, but didn't say anything. He nodded slightly. Okay, then I'll put these groceries in the fridge first. I'll cook when I come back tonight. After saying this, Fu Ru went to work. Yin Luofeng took the opportunity of going to the toilet to call Nangong Uni. When she heard Nangong Uni's voice, she immediately got to the point. Nangong, what way do you have to get money? Money? Yin Luofeng, if you want money, I can lend it to you. No, Yin Luofeng shook her head. What I need is a large amount of RMB. Just that isn't enough. If she wanted revenge, the first step was to gather enough funds. Nangong Uni was silent for a moment. Do you remember Shuedong? Shuedong. Yin Luofeng froze, and a face with square eyes appeared in her mind. Nangong Uni guessed that Yin Luofeng had already thought of this person, and the corners of her lips rose slightly. Shuedong. That bookworm's family runs a pharmacy, but it's just a private pharmacy. You have so many elixirs, you can completely sell them at the pharmacy. At that time, even if you set a high price, people will come to buy them. Yin Luofeng's eyes flashed lightly. That's right. This is indeed a good idea. Also, I know that your grandfather's status is quite high, and you should know quite a lot of people. Help me book a private room in the Spring Garden restaurant. I want to bring my teacher there for a meal. Spring Garden Snow was one of the more famous restaurants in the capital. If you wanted to book a private room, you had to book a year in advance. However, with the identity of Nangong Yuni's grandfather here, it wouldn't be a problem. Haha, my grandfather mentioned you just now. He said that he wanted to thank you properly. If you want to ask him for help, he would be more than happy to help you. Nangong Yuni's voice was very cheerful. His mood was also very good. That's right, Yin Luo Feng. Hong Wan has already agreed to my proposal. In the end, Nangong Yuni added another sentence. Hearing this, the corners of Yin Luofeng's lips curled up and a smile appeared on his face. Then, congratulations. However, this isn't the 7 continents. This is Huaxia. Back then, you even chased after the Department Beauty of Huaxia Academy. Unfortunately, that Department Beauty thought that your family was ordinary and wasn't willing to accept you. If she knew that you were the grandson of the old leader, she would definitely come back to find you. At that time, would you leave with her? Nangong Yuni chuckled twice. At that time, I was also in love for the first time. I didn't understand these things until I met Hong Wan. Only then did I realize that she was the person I wanted to pursue in this life. Chapter 2188. So, I won't abandon her like anyone else. Otherwise, you can beat me to death at any time. Nangong Yuni's voice was filled with flattery, which made Yin Luofeng's heart relax. If asked who her most important friend was in the 7 continents, she would choose Hong Wan without hesitation. Therefore, she really hoped that Hong Wan could be happy. You know, my master, if you want to come, you can come at any time. We'll wait for you at Spring Garden Snow. After saying this, Yin Luofeng hung up the phone, pushed open the door, and walked out. When she pushed open the bathroom door, she found Fu Qing eavesdropping on them. In that instant, Yin Luofeng helplessly facepalmed. What are you doing here? Fu Qing laughed awkwardly. I wanted to hear who you were calling. Nangong Yuni. The corners of Yin Luofeng's lips rose, and a smile appeared on her face. What? Senior Nangong? Fu Qing jumped in surprise. Is he still alive like you? Oh, right. I remember that Senior Nangong pursued you for a period of time. Why didn't you develop anything? As soon as she said this, a cold aura came from his side, and Yin Luofeng's body was instantly pulled into an embrace. Yin Zhao's expression was very ugly. He pursued you? Yes. Yin Luofeng blinked. What's wrong? You should be glad that you didn't accept him. The man's voice was low and hoarse, but it was cold. Otherwise, I would have killed him. Fu Qing was originally frightened by Yun Zhao's aura, but after hearing this, she came back to her senses and said weakly, Did I say something wrong? This man was too terrifying. How could Sister Luofeng stand him? Teacher. Yin Luofeng's gaze turned and saw Fu Ru walking out of the kitchen and said, Let's go, I've already booked a private room. Fu Ru hesitated for a moment, then nodded lightly. Okay. He began to weigh the money in his pocket, whether it was enough to cover the expenses this time. At this moment, in a luxurious villa, Nangong Lan sat angrily on the sofa, her delicate little face full of anger. She said very unwillingly, Mom, why isn't that old thing dead yet? Did the people you sent not hit it hard enough? Zhao Meishua's expression didn't look too good either. Logically speaking, such a heavy injury shouldn't be able to be healed. Who exactly is that Yin Luofeng? How did you manage to save the heavily injured old man? Hearing this, Nangong Lan fiercely bit her lips. I know Yin Luofeng. She's also a rather famous student at Huaxia University. I heard that she also disappeared in the explosion 5 years ago. I didn't expect her to actually return with Nangong Yuni. Oh, Zhao Meishue raised her eyebrows and asked, Do you know who Yin Luofeng is? At the mention of Yin Luofeng, Nangong Lan's eyes flashed with disdain. It said that Yin Luofeng's parents died when she was young, and she was adopted by her aunt and uncle, who knew that she was an ingrate. She lived in her aunt and uncle's house and even bullied her uncle's son. Because she was jealous of her aunt and uncle's love for her son, she almost strangled an innocent child to death. More importantly, her aunt and uncle didn't touch a single cent of the family property that her parents had left behind, and kept it all for her. But this ingrate framed her aunt and uncle for seizing her property. In the end, her aunt and uncle were so angry that they donated all of their property, not leaving a single cent for her. Chapter 2189. Tell me, what kind of person is this kind of woman? Nangong Lan was full of resentment. Indeed, what kind of person is worthy of befriending? Nangong Uni isn't a good person either. Our Nangong family raised him, but he doesn't know how to be grateful. He's worse than a beast. Zhao Meishua's eyes flashed, but she didn't say much. She smiled and said, Lan you're tired. Go and rest first. Mom will think of a way to get rid of that old man. Okay, Nangong Lan nodded. That old man is my grandfather. I shouldn't want him to die, but he only has eyes for Nangong Uni. That little bastard. If he didn't want to let Nangong Uni inherit everything in the Nangong family, we wouldn't have treated him like this. Thinking of this, Nangong Lan felt a little better, and a vicious glint flashed across her eyes. Zhao Meishue closed her eyes gently. Lan remember, the Nangong family will only be ours. She would never give it to anyone else. Nangong Lan bit her lips and walked up the stairs. Soon, she reached the second floor. After Nangong Lan left, Zhao Meishue opened her eyes and took out her phone to make a call. Hello. A low voice came from the other end of the phone, causing Zhao Meishue to tighten her grip on the phone. Seeing that Zhao Meishue didn't say anything, the person on the other end said, Aren't you afraid that the Nangong family will see you calling me in broad daylight? Zhao Meishue pursed her lips. I miss you, and that damn old man isn't dead. What? Not dead? How is that possible? He had done it flawlessly. This old man would definitely die, and no one would be able to trace it back to him. A young lady called Yin Luofeng saved him, Zhao Meishue said as she lowered her eyes slightly. The person on the other end of the phone didn't speak for a long time. After a while, he said, Then why are you looking for me now? I want you to help me create an accident again. This time, I don't believe that he won't die. Zhao Meishue's eyes flashed with viciousness as she gritted her teeth. The person was silent for a moment. It's already not easy to create an accident once. If there's a next time, it won't be so easy. I don't care. You must help me. Even if it wasn't for me, it was for our daughter. Could it be that you have the heart to see her being bullied by that stinking brat Nangong Uni in the Nangong family? As long as the old man is dead, I will deal with Nangong Chuan. Nangong Chuan is your husband. Can you really bear to do that? So what? I only want the wealth of the Nangong family. What happens to others has nothing to do with me. Besides, the person I love has always been you. If it wasn't for the Nangong nobles, why would I have chosen to marry Nangong Chuan? Perhaps she was afraid that the man in front of her would be dissatisfied. Zhao Meishue hurriedly added another sentence. Her voice was very gentle, so gentle that it made the man's bones soften. The man in front of her didn't speak for a long time. Just when Zhao Meishue thought he wasn't going to speak again, that deep voice sounded again. Lanner still doesn't know that she's my daughter? That's right. I can't tell her for now. Otherwise, she won't be able to take the blow. All right. The man pondered for a moment. I will help you, but I also have a part in this Nangong family. A cold light flashed in Zhao Meishue's eyes, but her voice was still gentle. That's only natural. After all, you're the only man I've ever loved deeply in my life. Isn't what's mine yours? Chapter 2190. The man on the other end of the line said something to Zhao Meishue before the call was hung up. After she hung up the phone, a cold light flashed in her eyes. She laughed icily and said, Men are really stupid. Nangong Chuan is like that, and so is he. I played them both like a fiddle. Who is it? Suddenly, Zhao Meishue seemed to have sensed something. She immediately turned her head and saw a little hamster running right in front of her. Zhao Meishue frowned. Why is there a hamster in the villa? Looks like I need to get someone to clean it up. She didn't care about a little hamster. Anyway, the little hamster didn't understand human language. It had no idea what she was talking about just now. But why did the little hamster look like a recording pen in its mouth just now? At this thought, Zhao Meishue couldn't help but laugh. She must have seen wrongly. Why would a hamster run around with a recording pen in its mouth? This clearly didn't make sense. At this thought, Zhao Meishua didn't think any further. She walked up to the second floor, her high heels clacking against the ground, echoing throughout the empty villa spring garden snow. There were many luxury cars parked at the entrance. Hence, when Yin Luofeng and the others got out of the taxi, they instantly attracted countless gazes. Dad, Sister Luofeng. It was Fu Qing's first time in such a high-class restaurant. She subconsciously shrank back in fear. Especially now, she felt like she was in a zoo being watched. Luofeng this. Furu was also a little stunned. The place you booked is Spring Garden Snow. I remember that the private room can only be booked a year in advance. How did you get it? Yin Luofeng smiled. I asked Nangong for help. Nangong? Furu blinked in shock. When did Nangong become so powerful? But, thinking of the tens of thousands of yuan left in her bank card, Furu gritted her teeth and walked in. That tens of thousands of yuan should be enough for today's meal, right? She was waiting to celebrate the return of her student and let Qing enjoy a good meal. Of course, Yin Luofeng didn't know what Furu was thinking. She held Yin Yinfeng and Yin Chutian with one hand and Yin Xiao by her side. The group walked towards the restaurant. Swoosh! At this moment, screams came from behind. Yin Chutian, who was originally by Yin Luofeng's side, looked over curiously. His beautiful eyes were full of amazement. It was a red sports car. It stopped at an extremely fast speed. Shortly after, the door of the sports car was opened, and a man and a woman walked out of the sports car. The man was wearing a black leather jacket and looked quite handsome. The woman beside him was wearing a strapless dress, and her curves could be seen when she bent down. Yin Chutian's eyes, which were originally filled with amazement, immediately covered Yin Yinfeng's eyes with his small hands when he saw the woman in such a revealing outfit. They yelled. They had been in Huaxia for a long time and had seen many people who wore revealing clothes, but the woman in front of them had revealed everything that should be revealed. It was no wonder that Yin Chutian would have such a reaction. Yin Luofeng and Yin Xiao looked at each other. It looked like these two little fellows were getting along better than they had expected. Yin up. Yin 1 Yin Yin I 1 1. Chapter 2191. Oh, I was wondering who it was. So it's Fu Qing from our school. The scantily clad woman held onto the man next to her and walked arrogantly toward Fu Qing. Her expression was arrogant, but her eyes were full of disdain. Don't tell me you're here to spend money at Spring Garden Snow? Do you think that little bit of money you have is enough for a meal at Spring Garden Snow? Yin Luofeng, who was about to leave, paused when he heard this and turned to look at Fu Qing. You know her? Fu Qing nodded with difficulty. She's my classmate at Huaxia University. Classmate? Yin Luofeng's eyes flickered, and a cold glint flashed across his eyes. Sister Luofeng, brother-in-law, let's go. Don't worry about her. Fu Qing gritted her teeth and said, Hey! Seeing that Fu Qing was about to leave, the woman flew into a rage and said angrily, Fu Qing, how dare you ignore me? Do you believe that I won't tell the whole school that you found a sugar daddy outside? If you didn't find a sugar daddy, how could a poor be *TCH like you come to a place like Spring Garden Snow? Fu Qing clenched her fists tightly. There were a few times when she wanted to lose her temper, but she finally held it in and was about to walk into Spring Garden Snow. You! The woman was furious. She raised her hand and wanted to grab Fu Qing. But before she could touch Fu Qing, she was grabbed by a hand. Say what you just said again. Yin Luofeng's voice was demonic and cold, causing the woman to shiver all over. She quickly calmed down and looked up at the woman who was threatening her. What do you want? The man beside her wanted to say something when he saw that his female companion was being bullied. Who knew that when his gaze landed on Yin Luofeng's face, he could no longer speak. The woman in front of him was too beautiful, and she had a demonic aura that could easily captivate people. After a while, the man returned to his senses, and his lips curled into a smile. Miss, do you know what price you have to pay for attacking my female companion? But, seeing that you're not bad-looking, if you're willing to spend a night with me, I'll let you go. As soon as he finished speaking, the surrounding air turned cold, and a cold aura flowed in the air. Fu Rue was a little anxious. She quickly walked in front of Yin Luo Feng and said, Luo Feng, you must not agree to him. Teacher will make the decision for you. Oh, so you're a teacher? The man sneered and said sarcastically, is being a teacher very powerful? I hate teachers the most in my life. If I don't break your leg today, I'll change my surname to yours. After saying that, the man raised his leg and wanted to kick Fu Rue. Fu Rue was so scared that her face turned pale, but she still didn't move. Bang! Suddenly, a large hand grabbed the man's foot and exerted force. In an instant, a ghostly wail and wolf howl rang out, scaring the surrounding people into hurriedly moving away for fear that they would be affected. My leg, my leg! The man's voice was heart-wrenching. His handsome face was contorted and his eyes were bloodshot. The female companion who had previously insulted Fu Qing was also scared out of her wits. She widened her eyes in astonishment and looked at the cold-looking man in disbelief. Compared to Yin Luo Feng, this man was even more terrifying, crippling his leg just because of a disagreement. Father, this person just insulted Mother. Don't let him off so easily. I suggest we cut off his tongue and see if he can still speak. Yin Yinfeng placed his hands on his hips and glared angrily at the man who was rolling on the ground. Chapter 2192. Yin Zhao's eyes were filled with murderous intent. Her face was expressionless and cold like a god of death. No, I was wrong. Please let me go. I was really wrong. After the man heard Yin Yinfeng's words, he hurriedly begged for mercy, afraid that Yin Xiao would really cut off his tongue in a fit of anger. He believed that this man would definitely do such a thing. Yin Luo Feng tugged at Yin Xiao and shook his head at him. Soon after, he walked towards the man and lowered his face. He smiled soundlessly and said, Remember, the reason why you're here today is all because of your female companion. If she hadn't randomly provoked others, you wouldn't have ended up like this. The scantily clad woman trembled, and her face was filled with terror. Indeed, after Yin Luofeng's words fell, she clearly sensed the anger in the man's eyes. Yin Xiao, let's go. Yin Luofeng slowly turned around and walked towards Chun Yuan Shui. Perhaps it was because of this matter that the originally lively Fu Qing became silent. She didn't say a single word along the way. However, when she reached the door of the private room, she suddenly said in an extremely weak voice, Sister Luofeng, I'm sorry, I've caused trouble for you again. 5 years ago, when Yin Luofeng was still around, she was bullied because of her weak personality. Every time, it was Yin Luofeng who stood up for her and beat up those who bullied her until they didn't dare to touch her again. It had always been like this since she was young. It had never changed. Yin Luofeng's footsteps paused. She didn't turn around and turned her back to the young girl behind her. I can't protect you forever, so you must let yourself grow up. Only when you become strong will you not be bullied by others. Whether it was the 7 continents or Huaxia, this sentence was equally effective. In this world where people bullied the weak and feared the strong, only when they became strong enough would they not be bullied by others. But Fu Qing gently pursed her lips, her expression somewhat gloomy. Teacher is already old. He can't protect you forever, and I won't stay here forever either. In the future, you can only protect yourself. She didn't know if Fu Qing understood her words, but Yin Luofeng didn't say much and led Fu Qing into the private room. Sir, would you like to order now, or? A waiter walked in and asked respectfully. Teacher. Yin Luofeng turned to Fu Rue. Nangong and his girlfriend will be here soon. Why don't we wait for them to arrive before ordering? Nangong has a girlfriend? Huh. Fu Rue laughed heartily, sweeping away her gloominess. Okay, then we'll wait for them to arrive. You can leave first. The waiter smiled and left. When the door to the private room was closed, a series of cell phone ringtones rang. Fu Qing took out her phone and glanced at it. Her expression was a little awkward. Sister Luofeng, she's my classmate. Take it. Yin Luofeng said lightly. Ever since he saw that woman, Yin Luofeng had been very worried about Fu Qing's life at school. Now, he wanted to see why his classmates were looking for her. Fu Qing obediently picked up the phone and put it on speaker mode, so everyone could hear a voice coming from the other end of the phone. Fu Qing, Song Xiaoyu just told me that you're also here at Spring Garden Shui. The voice was very gentle, but it gave people a feeling that it was artificial. Yin Luo Feng frowned slightly. I did meet Song Xiaoyu at the entrance of Spring Garden Shui. Fu Qing bit her lip. Why? Why are you looking for me? Chapter 2193. It's like this. Today is our class gathering, and it's being held here at Spring Garden Snow. Xiaoyu also came for the gathering, but she had to leave at the last minute. Do you mind if we join you? The woman on the other end of the phone suggested kindly. Fu Qing sneered. They were probably here to watch her make a fool of herself. After all, everyone knew that her father was expelled from school, and her family was in decline. It was impossible for her to have spare money to eat at Spring Garden Snow. More importantly, she actually didn't know about the class gathering until now. Fu Qing, don't blame us for not informing you. The woman on the other end of the phone clearly considered this as well. She said this gathering is shared by all of us. We were afraid that you couldn't afford it, so we didn't inform you. Since you're here now, let's go together. Which room are you in? Fu Qing pursed her lips. Just as she was about to refuse, Yin Luofeng's indifferent voice rang in her ears. Let them come over. It seemed that it was time for her to help Fu Qing get rid of those hidden dangers, so that these people wouldn't bother her often. Okay. Fu Qing nodded lightly, then replied, I'm in a spring pavilion. You guys come over. Not far away, in a private room, a petite and beautiful girl hung up the phone and made an okay gesture to the men and women in the room. No problem, she agreed. Right, she's in the spring pavilion. Spring pavilion? Among the group of people, a shrewd-looking man was a little shocked. Lin Chi, what's wrong? The others also turned to this man. In fact, a place like Spring Garden Snow was not a place that ordinary people could set foot in. Just booking a private room required a year in advance. This time, they could only enter Spring Garden Snow with Lin Chi's help. Of course, the money for the gathering was also paid for by Lin Chi. The reason why he said that to Fu Qing was just to find an excuse. Lin Chi slowly came back to his senses, his eyes complicated. The number of private rooms we booked are just ordinary private rooms. However, there are 4 private rooms in Spring Garden Snow that can't be booked even if you have the money. Those private rooms are respectively spring, summer, autumn, and winter pavilions. Those who can enter these private rooms must have a very high status in China. What? The students were all shocked. The girl who had just called Fu Qing was called Pang Ziyue. She was shocked and said in disbelief, could it be that Fu Qing is a mistress? When did Fu Qing become a sugar daddy? Pang Ziyue's expression was very conflicted, and she found it difficult to speak. It was just when Liu Yu called me. She said that Fu Qing personally admitted that she had a sugar daddy, and it was that sugar daddy who booked the private room for her. When everyone heard this, they looked at each other, and the disdain in their eyes became even more intense. Fu Qing's luck is pretty good. It seems like she's not an ordinary rich man. He must be very powerful. Don't say that. Pang Ziyue bit her lip. Not all women want to be rich. At least I want to marry for love, not for bread. There are only a few women like Fu Qing. After all, if I have to sleep with someone I don't love, I'll definitely feel like dying. After hearing Pang Ziyue's words, the male students who had scoffed at Fu Qing looked at her in agreement. Fu Qing may look pure and clean, but she could actually do such a thing. You really couldn't know a person's face. No wonder her father could do something like rape a female student. Chapter 2194. Let's go see Fu Qing now, Lin Chi said after a moment of silence. The others also stood up one after another, and under the guidance of the waiter, they walked towards the private room of the Spring Pavilion. At this moment, in the Spring Pavilion, Fu Qing was a little uneasy. Those classmates wouldn't be kind enough to tell her about the gathering. They must be here to see a joke. So, she suddenly regretted agreeing to Pang Ziyue. And not long after, there was a commotion outside the door. Just as Fu Qing looked up, a group of people pushed open the door of the private room and rushed in from the outside. Fu Qing, I didn't expect you to be here. Pang Ziyue smiled slightly and slowly walked towards Fu Qing. The smile on her face was gentle, and there was a smile in her eyes. She wanted to see if the man who kept Fu Qing was also here, but after looking around, other than Fu Rui, who was a little older, the others were just a couple and two children. But Pang Ziyue knew Fu Rui, so she couldn't help but feel a little disappointed. Daddy, Mommy. Yin Shutian curled his small mouth and snuggled into Yun Luofeng's arms. Why did you let these people in? They emit a stench, even more disgusting than beggars. It's really annoying. When had Lin Chi ever suffered such humiliation? Just as he was about to get angry, the man in front of him suddenly raised his head and swept a cold glance at him. This glance made Lin Chi's back break out in a cold sweat. His face was a little pale, and his lips trembled. He had never seen a person's gaze that could be so terrifying. Yun Zhao's head had been lowered, so the others didn't see his face clearly. Now, when the man raised his head, they just saw that handsome face that made people scream. Pang Ziyue was even more stunned. She had never seen such a good-looking man. He was so much better than those idols and celebrities. Pang Ziyue. Fu Qing naturally noticed Pang Ziyue's expression, and her face was a little angry. He's my brother-in-law. How can you stare at a man? Pang Ziyue's expression was a little awkward. She retracted her gaze and said, I was just curious. Why would there be a man with such long hair? So I unconsciously took a few more glances. If I affected you, then I apologize. But she had to say that this man looked really good with long hair. Her heart skipped a few beats when she saw that handsome and cold face of his. Fu Qing, your words are too much. Don't you know what kind of person Pang Ziyue is? How could she have designs on anyone else? That's right. Do you think everyone is like you? He had no sense of propriety. You should learn from Pang Ziyue what makes a good woman. Fu Qing was so angry that her face turned red. Tears of grievance were about to fall, but she endured it and glared at the group of people in front of her. Pa! Suddenly, Yin Luofeng's palm fiercely fell on the table. The originally incomparably hard table, under this palm of hers, broke into two. No one said anything. Pang Ziyue's eyes widened in horror as she stared at the peerlessly beautiful face in astonishment. The fear in her heart rendered her speechless. If you want to stay, then keep quiet. If you don't want to stay, then get the hell out of here right now. The woman's voice was icy cold, and it revealed an awe-inspiring and murderous aura, causing the entire room to fall silent. Chapter 2195. Everyone was frightened by Yun Luofeng. They didn't say anything and sat down in silence. Bai Yin slapped the menu on the table. I just heard on the phone that you guys are going Dutch for this gathering, right? The corners of their mouths twitched. Those words were only used to deceive Fu Qing, so they didn't plan on going Dutch from the start. However, they could pay first and have Lin Chi transfer it to them when they got back. We already made it very clear just now. It's going Dutch. If you guys want to participate, I'm afraid Fu Qing will have to pay a bit more. Pang Ziyue smiled slightly and explained with good intentions. If that's the case, then I won't wait for Nangong. I'll order now. Yin Luofeng had already scanned through the contents of the menu. Now, he had even listed out the more expensive dishes. Every time she named a dish, Lin Chi paused for a moment. A trace of doubt flashed through his eyes. Although he didn't come to Spring Garden Snow often, he still came a few times a year to enjoy it. Why hadn't he heard of the dishes Yin Luofeng named before? But, although Spring Garden Snow's dishes were expensive, they were still within the range he could afford, so he didn't say much. Teacher, can you drink? Yin Luofeng looked up at Fu Rui and asked. Fu Rui was a little hesitant. She weighed the remaining balance in her card and shook her head in the end. How about this? Teacher, I heard Nangon talk about the wine here. It seems pretty good. Everyone can have a bottle. Yin Luofeng didn't seem to see Fu Rui's movements. She named a bottle of red wine and said, That's it. You can leave. All right, please wait a moment. The dishes will be served soon. The waiter bowed respectfully and retreated out the door. Not long after, the private room's door was pushed open. Nangong Yuni and Hong Wan walked in hand. When they saw so many people sitting there, they were stunned. Nangong, you know Fu Qing. These people are all her classmates. When she said the last sentence, Yin Luofeng's tone clearly became indifferent. Nangong Yuni knew she had a problem with these people. He couldn't help but raise the corner of his lips. Little Qing's classmates? It doesn't look like much. As long as it was someone Yin Luofeng didn't like, Nangong Uni wouldn't like either. Hence, when he saw these people, he couldn't help but mock them. You. Just as Lin Shi was about to get angry, the person next to him immediately pulled his sleeve, signaling him not to be impulsive. I know this man. He's our senior from a few years ago, Nangong Uni. He's pretty good at fighting, and he could take on all of us here by himself. News of the explosion at Huaxia Academy that year had been sealed, so the people outside didn't know the truth. Naturally, they didn't know that Nangong Uni had already been missing for 5 years. Suddenly, a scream was heard. Everyone turned to the source of the voice. Pang Ziyue's face was pale, cold sweat dripping down her face. She bit her lips tightly as she glared at Hong Wan. Hong Wan retracted her leg apologetically. I'm sorry, I didn't see your leg and accidentally stepped on you. I apologize. From the moment she entered the room, Hong Wan saw that this woman's eyes were very dishonest. She kept glancing at Yin Xiao, so she couldn't help but step on her foot on purpose. She even used her spiritual energy. One could imagine how heavy that foot was. It made Pang Ziyue feel as if a knife had pierced the back of her foot. It hurt so much that her entire body trembled. Chapter 2196. You must have done it on purpose. Pang Ziyue was a little angry. She suddenly stood up from her seat and said angrily. Hong Wan glanced at her indifferently. You've already apologized. If you insist that I did it on purpose, then I can't do anything about it. Moreover, you can let others see the shoes I'm wearing. You say that I stepped on you. Do you believe it? You. Pang Ziyue was so angry that her entire body was trembling. She couldn't even say a word. The others also stood up one after another and looked at Hong Wan. They clearly saw that pair of antique flats. Being stepped on by such shoes wouldn't cause much of a sensation, but Pang Ziyue's reaction was indeed a little exaggerated. Pang Ziyue also understood this point. She bit her lip tightly. I did react a little too violently just now, because you stepped on me really hard. If I offended you, I'm very sorry. Hearing this, Hong Wan didn't say anything else. She sat down on her own and said with a smile, Luo Feng, I'm hungry. Have you ordered all the dishes? Yes, they'll be served very soon. Indeed, just as Yin Luo Feng finished speaking, the waiter came over with a plate of dishes. The aroma of the dishes instantly attracted everyone's attention. They also forgot about the quarrel just now and all began to eat. The entire dining atmosphere was rather harmonious. Those people didn't dare to say a word while eating, but their occasional disdainful gazes betrayed them. Time passed very quickly. In just a moment, all the dishes had been swept clean. When Yin Luo Feng shouted for the bill, the waiter slowly walked over with the bill in his hand. Hello, Mississippi. You've spent a total of 5 million this time. What? Lin Shi, who was wiping her lips, immediately jumped up in shock when she heard this. She said angrily, Are you tricking me? I've come to Spring Garden so many times. Each time, it's at most 30 to 50,000. This time, you're actually telling me that a single meal cost 5 million? If it was someone from another restaurant, they would definitely have snorted disdainfully when they heard this. However, the waiters in Spring Garden Snow and were rather polite and didn't feel unhappy because of this. Instead, they explained seriously. Sir, it's true that you've come to our Spring Garden Snow consumer country, but you've always been in an ordinary private room. Out of consideration for the customer's requirements, the dishes in an ordinary private room are more difficult to evaluate. Even if you order the best dish or the most expensive wine, it won't exceed 100,000 yuan. However, this is a VIP private room, so the dishes are different from those in ordinary private rooms. Lin Shi's face was very ugly. Indeed, these dishes were more exquisite and delicious than those he had eaten before, but the price was also ridiculously high. Sir, there are 30 people in each of your seats. Each bottle of red wine costs 100,000 yuan, so the price of red wine alone is already 3 million yuan. Lin Shi trembled even more. That bottle of red wine actually cost 100,000 yuan? That mouthful of his was like drinking RMB. Lin Shi, I don't care. Anyway, you said you're treating this time. One of the teenagers stood up first. So, I won't take out a penny. Shut up. Lin Chi's eyes were bloodshot. He roared angrily. That's a few million, not a few yuan. Where the hell do you want me to find these millions? This money we have to split evenly. Don't think I'll be the fool. Don't be nervous. Pangzi bit her lower lip and said softly, We've definitely been scammed. Isn't it just a bottle of wine? Why is it so expensive? It's almost the price of a small car. Chapter 2197. Shut up. Lin Chi shouted angrily. If you hadn't suggested looking for Fu Qing, would this have happened? That's right. It was Pang Ziyue who suggested looking for Fu Qing in the beginning. But what happened next was completely beyond their imagination. Luo Feng. This Fu Rui's expression was a little nervous. He didn't expect this meal to cost millions. Unless he sold his house, it would be difficult to pay off the money this time. Teacher, you don't have to worry. Nan Gong is here to pay the bill. Yin Luo Feng shrugged his shoulders as the corners of his lips curled into a smile. As for the others, since we've agreed to split the bill, I'll have to trouble all of you to pay for this meal. Lin Chi clenched his fists tightly and took a deep breath. I don't have that much money. The others were silent. If it was a few thousand, they could still pay. But this was a few million. Even if it was divided among everyone, there would still be a lot left. Where would they find the money to pay? It's not that you don't have money. Yun Luo Feng shrugged. I can let Nangong pay for you, but you need to write an IOU. If you want the debtor's name, write Fu Qing. Sister Luo Feng. Fu Qing's eyes widened and she was at a loss. This isn't good. It's okay. You have the IOU in your hand. You can ask them for a raise at any time. This money is enough for you and teacher to live comfortably for the rest of your lives. Yin Luo Feng smiled. More importantly, she was leaving this place. She couldn't protect Fu Qing for the rest of her life, so she could only use this method to make everyone owe her a debt. In order to prevent Fu Qing from asking them for a debt, this group of people wouldn't bully her from now on. Fu Qing felt a little complicated. She knew that if she hadn't been so worried, Yin Luo Feng wouldn't have gone through so much trouble to help her. From now on, these people wouldn't bully her anymore. Thank you, Sister Luo Feng. In the end, Fu Qing still agreed to this favor. When she graduated in the future, she would repay her. Moreover, this money, she would get it back no matter what. You don't have to thank me. If you want to thank someone, thank Nangong. It's his treat this time. Yin Luo Feng curled his lips. Also, the date on that IOU is written 6 years. You will graduate in 3 years. You will also have 3 years to repay the debt. If you don't repay the debt in 3 years, you can only wait to be sued. Everyone's expressions were ugly, but they knew that if they didn't write this IOU, they wouldn't be able to leave Spring Garden Snow today. Therefore, they had no choice but to write an IOU. After writing the IOU, they hurriedly left. Yin Luo Feng also handed the IOU to Fu Qing. If they bully you, you can find them at any time. It's getting late. Let's go back. All right. Fu Qing solemnly nodded her head. Wait until she got her debt back. She would return it to Nangong Uni without leaving a single cent. When Yin Luo Feng and the others walked out of Spring Garden Snow, the other students still hadn't left. However, they didn't dare to mock and ridicule them like before. They all remained silent and didn't say a word. Fu Qing, who was walking at the back of the crowd, suddenly saw a car charge towards Yun Luo Feng. At this moment, everyone was a distance away from her. Even Yun Xiao was a few meters away. Careful. Fu Qing turned pale with fright and hastily shouted. Unfortunately, it was already too late. The car quickly charged in front of Yun Luo Feng. Chapter 2198. Fu Rui's face was pale with fright, and she couldn't even stand steadily. Fu Qing almost cried out, but just when they thought Yin Luo Feng would be hit by the car this time, a miracle suddenly happened. They saw the woman in the fluttering white dress suddenly stretch out her palm, and with a loud bang, the car that was originally going to hit Yin Luo Feng was immediately pushed away by her and flipped upside down. Shock! Everyone at the entrance of the restaurant was shocked by this move of hers, especially Fu Qing's classmates. Each and every one of them covered their mouths in shock, unable to say a single word as their bodies trembled. How is this possible? How could a human have such great power that they could even flip over a car? For a moment, everyone felt their hairs stand on end. Those who had once opposed Fu Qing were deathly pale, afraid that Yin Luofeng would remember them. Fengler! Yin Xiao quickly walked to Yin Luofeng's side and examined her from head to toe. When he saw that she was safe and sound, he let out a sigh of relief. His callous gaze turned to the car that had crashed on the ground in front of him. He quickly walked forward and punched the car door. In that instant, the door immediately flew out, but there was no one in the car. Unable to find the culprit and unable to vent his anger, Yin Xiao kicked the car again. In an instant, the car was kicked 10 feet away and finally fell apart in front of everyone's eyes. Everyone swallowed a mouthful of saliva. This husband and wife, were they both freaks? This strength was too frightening. A driverless car? Nangong Yuni's eyes darkened. I think that someone is controlling this car from behind the scenes. They must be deliberately targeting Yin Luofeng. Looking at the wrecked car, the corners of Yin Luofeng's mouth slightly rose. Just now, when we were eating, the gold-seeking rat brought the recording pen over. Are you interested in listening to it? Recording pen? Nangong Yuni was stunned. He knew that Hong Wan was suspicious of the mother and daughter, and also knew that Yin Luofeng had sent the gold-seeking rat to monitor them, but he didn't think that there would be results so quickly. Thinking of this, Nangong Yuni's gaze became somewhat complicated. Logically speaking, that mother and daughter had repeatedly humiliated him. He should have wanted nothing more than for the mother and daughter to lose all their standing and reputation. However, the person they wanted to deal with was his grandfather. If it was really done by them, how disappointed would grandfather be? You don't need to worry too much. Hong Wan patted Nangong Yuni's shoulder. I can see that your grandfather doesn't like them. Since he doesn't like them, why should he be bitterly disappointed? Nangong Yuni stared blankly for a moment before nodding in realization. That's right, if I don't like him, why would I be disappointed? Hong Wan, Fallen Maple, let's go to the villa. Nangong Yuni's gaze darkened. He would never allow anyone to harm his grandfather again. Yin Luofeng nodded lightly and turned to the frightened Fu Rue. Teacher, I need to go and take care of some things. You can go back first. However, because of Nangong's matter, there's been some danger. I'll give my hamster to you. It will protect you. After saying this, Yin Luofeng took out 2 gold-seeking mice, 1 male and 1 female, and handed them to Fu Qing. If you are separated from the teacher, each of you must carry one with you. They will protect your safety. Fu Qing was astonished. She only knew that loyal dogs would protect people, but how could a hamster protect people? This kind of hamster, it seemed that if one accidentally stepped on it, they would immediately die. The gold-seeking rat sensed Fu Qing's disdain and bared its sharp teeth at her. That human-like expression scared Fu Qing. Chapter 2199. Chutian, Nianfeng, you two go back with teacher. Yin Luofeng pondered for a while and said, Okay. Yin Chutian responded obediently, his voice soft and sweet. Yin Yinfeng was a little unwilling, but after seeing Yin Luofeng's determined expression, he could only nod with grievance. Mother, I'll wait for you to come back. After throwing Yin Yinfeng and Yin Chutian to Fu Rue, Yin Luofeng and Yin Xiao looked at each other and then turned to Nangong Yuni. Let's go. Ask your grandfather to come again. There'll be a good show soon. After saying this, her gaze seemed to subconsciously sweep to the distance, and the corners of her lips curled up. Not far away, the man hiding in the dark sensed Yin Luofeng's gaze and hurriedly turned his head back. His back involuntarily broke out in a layer of cold sweat. Finally, he gritted his teeth and dialed a number. Miyuki, this time, I was almost screwed over by you. A surprised voice came from the other side of the phone. What happened? The man pondered for a while and asked, Are you in the villa? I'll go find you now. This. Zhao Meishue was a little hesitant. That's not good. It won't be good if we're seen in broad daylight. Stop pretending. Haven't I gone to find you many times in the day? Now that the old man isn't in good health, Nangong Chuan can't leave, and your stepson is with his classmate. Lana isn't here either. What are you worried about? Hearing the man's words, Zhao Meishue hesitated for a while and gritted her teeth. Okay, come. Be careful to avoid some reporters. If their secret was exposed, she would immediately lose her reputation and Nangang Chuan wouldn't let her go. I know what I'm doing. After saying this, the man hung up the phone, ordered the driver to prepare the car, and walked down the tall building. Inside the villa, it was quiet. In order to have an affair, Zhao Meishue didn't leave any housekeepers. She even told Nangang Lan not to come back. At this moment, Zhao Meishue sat on the European-style sofa. Her heart was swollen with worry, and her eyelids were twitching violently. She felt like something was about to happen. Suddenly, there was the sound of a key opening the door. Zhao Meishue got up and looked over. When she saw the man's handsome face, her lips curled into a smile, and she walked over leisurely. You came? What happened today to make you so angry? The man's face darkened. You asked me to deal with that woman called Yin Luo Feng. Was that on purpose? What? Zhao Meishue raised her beautiful eyes in astonishment. What happened? Did you know that the woman pushed the car away with one punch? And the man beside her only used one kick to destroy the entire car. The man gritted his teeth, his ashen face filled with anger. Such a person was not someone they could afford to provoke. Boom! Zhao Meishue's head exploded with a bang. Her face was pale and bloodless. She laughed dryly and said, Did you see wrongly? Sending a car flying with a punch. Is that something an ordinary person can do? Wrong? The man sneered and grabbed Zhao Meishue's neck. Are you calling me blind? How could I see wrongly? Zhao Meishue, what kind of enemy did you provoke? It's fine if you want to die, but why do you have to drag me down with you? If he hadn't been vigilant and hadn't taken action himself, the outcome was clear. Chapter 2200. Zhao Meishue couldn't breathe. Her face turned the color of a pig's liver. Her hands and feet kept hitting the man, her eyes filled with fear. The man finally loosened his grip. Zhao Meishue felt that she could breathe again. Her body fell heavily to the ground. She looked a little embarrassed as she looked at the man standing in front of her. I really don't know. Humph. The man snorted. I can help you deal with Nangang Yuni, but I will never provoke that woman again. Also, after I succeed, you need to give me a sum of money. I will leave China immediately. Okay. Zhao Meishue gritted her teeth. I promise you. As long as she could make Nangang Yuni disappear, she didn't need to care about anything else. The man's gaze swept over and saw Zhao Meishue's heaving chest. An evil light flashed in his eyes. He strode forward and lifted Zhao Meishue up. He said in a low voice, I can't make this trip for nothing. You need to serve me. Now, Zhao Meishue was stunned. She hesitated for a moment before saying, Okay. She had to coax this man first before discussing other things with him. Can we go to the room? Women are always troublesome. The man's voice sounded a little impatient, but he still obeyed Zhao Meishue. Hurry up. I'll leave after we're done. Zhao Meishue smiled sweetly. She tidied up her messy hair and walked to the second floor. On the luxurious European-style bed, the man worked hard on the bed. The beautiful woman below him was drenched in sweat and panting heavily. Hurry up. Lon, it will be back soon. Zhao Meishue urged anxiously when she realized that it was getting late. After the man vented, he left Zhao Meishue's body. His expression became more and more impatient. Lana is my daughter. So what if I, as her father, see her? But Master Nangang Chuan is really stupid. He raised someone else's daughter for more than 10 years. He's so stupid. I really don't know that Nangang Group hasn't collapsed in the hands of this idiot. Zhao Meishue bit her lips. She looked at the man in front of her. I've satisfied you. You can leave now. This time, the man didn't say anything. He walked to the door and pulled it open. Originally, Zhao Meishue wanted to go out with the man, but suddenly saw several figures standing at the door. She was so scared that she screamed, at the door of the room. Old Master Nangong's face was ashen as he glared at the naked Zhao Meishue. His face was burning with rage. Dad. Zhao Meishue's voice was anxious. She hurriedly put on her clothes and said, Dad, listen to me. Explain? The old man snorted coldly, his face ashen. What else is there to explain? Uni, call your dad now and ask him to come back and see his wife, then bring Nangong Lan back as well. Our Nangong family is not stupid enough to raise a child for someone else. Zhao Meishua's body went limp, and she lay on the ground in a sorry state. If she was only caught in bed, she could still keep Nangong Lan in the Nangong family. This way, there would be hope for her to seize the family's wealth. But now, did the old man overhear their conversation in the room? How long had he been standing there for? Zhao Meishua bit her lips. Her face was pale. She hated the man beside her who also had an ugly expression. If he hadn't come to find her, how could this have happened? Chapter 2201. Nangong Chuan was dealing with important matters in the company, but he suddenly received a call from Nangong Uni. He cursed Nangong Uni without even thinking about it. Just as he was about to hang up, Nangong Uni's calm voice came from the other end. It's the old man who asked you to come to the villa. Something happened to Zhao Meishua and her daughter. Ever since Zhao Meishua entered the Nangong family, Nangong Uni had never called her mother. He always called her by her name. Nangong Chuan was angry at first, but in the end, he got used to it. However, now that he heard something happened to Zhao Meishua and her daughter, the anger that he had yet to suppress flared up again. Nangong Uni, did you do something to Miyuki and Lana again? Lan, is your sister, and Miyuki is your mother. It's fine if you go against them, but now you're doing something crazy? Nangong Chuan's voice was filled with anger. It was as if the person on the other end of the phone wasn't his son, but a familiar stranger. Nangong Family Villa. Nangong Uni's hand that was holding the phone trembled. His face was expressionless as he hung up the phone. He looked up at the old man in front of him and said, he'll be back soon. As long as he said something happened to Zhao Meishua, he would definitely rush back. Hey, the old man wasn't deaf. Naturally, he heard Nangong Chuan's anger. His expression was a little embarrassed. Uni, you've been wronged all these years. Nangong Chuan was too biased. He didn't even ask what happened and only blamed Nangong Uni. How could such a father be worthy of being called a father? Nangong Uni didn't say anything. He looked at the pale Zhao Meishua and said indifferently, it's okay. Soon, Nangong Chuan will know that the woman he loves has made him a cuckold. Even his most beloved daughter wasn't his biological daughter, no. Zhao Meishua screamed and knelt down with a thud. She cried, Dad, I know I was wrong. I really know I was wrong. Please don't tell Chuan about this. He won't be able to take it. As his wife, no one knew that man's personality better than her. He usually doted on her, but he also had a bottom line. If he knew that she had cheated, then he definitely wouldn't let her go. This has nothing to do with me. I'm leaving first. The man let go of the old man and wanted to leave, but was stopped by Nangong Uni. As Yin Luo Feng and Yin Xiao did not intend to get involved in the Nangong family's matters. They did not come to the villa to catch the adulterers. They only left after handing over the recording pen. Therefore, he did not see these two perverted men. When he saw that Nangong Uni dared to stop him, he immediately kicked Nangong Uni. But the instant he lifted his leg, Nangong Uni grabbed it tightly. Did you cause Grandpa's car accident? Also, did you control the driverless car to crash into Yun Luofeng today? The man's expression changed, and he argued, I don't know what you're talking about. He didn't reveal that he had hurt old Master Nangong, so he wouldn't admit it now. Nangong Uni saw that the man was stubborn, so he didn't say anything else. With a cold laugh, he took out a recording pen. When he pressed the button, a familiar voice came out from the pen, causing the man's face to immediately turn pale. Stupid woman. The man's expression changed. He swung his fist toward Zhao Meishua. Did you betray me? Were you the one who informed the Nangong nobles to come today? Chapter 2202. Zhao Meishua was bleeding profusely from a punch. She bit her lips tightly and didn't make a sound. At that moment, the sound of a key turning in the door lock was heard. Soon after, Nangong Chuan, who was holding a briefcase, quickly walked in. He glanced over and saw Zhao Meishua, whose face was covered in blood after being beaten by a man. He was instantly enraged and quickly rushed over. Miyuki, how are you? Are you okay? His heart ached. He raised his head and looked at Nangong Uni in anger. Nangong Uni, I didn't expect you to be so bold. You dare to find someone to beat up your mother. I'm going to call the police to arrest you. From now on, I, Nangong Chuan, don't have a son like you." When Nangong Chuan said this, no one stopped him. They only listened quietly. However, the old man's face was filled with disappointment. He was already thoroughly disappointed with this son of his. "If you weren't Nangong's father, I wouldn't have been polite to you." Hong Wan clenched her fists tightly. Her eyes were filled with murderous intent. "He found someone to beat up his mother. You still have the ability to not be polite to me?" Nangong Chuan sneered and helped Zhao Meishue up from the ground. He felt Zhao Meishue's trembling body. He thought that she had suffered a great shock. His heart instantly ached again. Ever since Miyuki married him, she hadn't enjoyed a single good day. When she was in the old mansion, she had to watch her father's face. When she moved out of the old mansion, this group of people still came to bully her. Did they really think that he, Nangong Chuan, wouldn't be angry? Nangong Chuan, the old man sneered. Who would blame their own son so indiscriminately? You haven't even asked clearly, and you think that he's in the wrong. Is there a father like you? Dad, don't speak up for this little b*** starred. He brought people to our door and even caused Miyuki to suffer such serious injuries. I won't let him off so easily today. Nangong Chuan was so angry that he wanted to beat up Nangong Uni. However, the old man stood in front of him. If you dare to touch Uni, you'll have to touch this old man first. At this moment, the old man's face was filled with anger. His clenched fists were trembling slightly. Dad! Nangong Chuan shouted in disbelief. This b** starred has already done such a thing, and you still want to protect him? The old man smiled coldly. If Yuni really hit her, then she deserved it. All these years, she's cheated on you so many times. Even the daughter you've doted on for so many years isn't your own. Now, you're having an affair with your lover in the villa that my Nangong family bought with money. She even schemed for the assets of our Nangong family. Do you think she deserves a beating? Zhao Meishue's body trembled even more violently. She didn't even dare to say a word. She kept her head lowered, hiding the despair in her eyes. Dad, what are you saying? Nangong Chuan was rather angry. Miyuki isn't such a person. Initially, when I approached her, she thought that I was poor and didn't know that I was the CEO of the Nangong family. How could such a beautiful woman like her scheme against my property? This doesn't seem like Nangong Uni's mother. Didn't she marry me for my identity? Pa! The old man was so angry that he slapped Nangong Chuan's face. Tears streamed down his old face. Ling Er is my comrade's daughter. Back then, that comrade owed me a favor. He wanted to repay me in other ways. It was me. It was me who was so stupid that I actually asked for his daughter to be my daughter-in-law. Chapter 22:03. Actually, in the beginning, they were unwilling. However, I really liked that girl, so I shamelessly asked for this marriage for you. But you made me feel ashamed to face my comrades. You also made me feel ashamed to face that girl after I die. Tears streamed down Master Nangong's face as his entire body trembled in anger. If I had known that you were such an animal, I would never have married that girl to you. Before Zhao Meishue appeared, Nangong Chuan had been a good son. He was obedient and sensible. When he had suggested for Nangong Chuan to marry that girl, he had agreed. He had thought that Nangong Chuan would treat that girl well. Who knew that he would let her down after Zhao Meishue appeared? If Zhao Meishue had been a good woman, perhaps, he would not have been so resistant. Unfortunately, he had seen through Zhao Meishue's nature from the beginning. Unfortunately, his son did not believe him. How could he accept this? You don't believe us, do you? Fine, I'll give you the recording pen. Master Nangong stretched out his trembling hands and threw the recording pen to Nangong Chuan. Nangong Chuan's eyes flashed with suspicion. In the end, he could not resist his curiosity and pressed the button. In an instant, the woman's familiar voice echoed in the empty villa. I miss you. Also, that damned old man isn't dead. A young lady named Yun Luofeng saved him. I want you to help me create another accident. This time, I don't believe that he won't die. I don't care. You must help me. Even if it's not for me, it's for our daughter. Could you bear to see her being bullied by that brat Nangong Uni in the Nangong family? As long as the old man is dead, I will deal with Nangong Chuan. So what? I only want the Nangong family's wealth. What happens to others has nothing to do with me. Besides, the person I love has always been you. If it wasn't for the Nangong family, why would I have chosen to marry Nangong Chuan? After all, you are the only man I have ever loved. Isn't what's mine yours? Nangong Chuan and Zhao Meishue had shared a bed for many years. How could he not recognize her voice? He gripped the recording pen in his hand tightly. His eyes were bloodshot as he raised his head and stared coldly at Zhao Meishue. Are you telling the truth? You're marrying me just for the Nangong family's wealth? He couldn't believe that the person who slept with him could be so vicious. Zhao Meishue's lips were deathly pale. She took 2 steps forward and tried to hold Nangong Chuan's hand, but Nangong Chuan flung her away. Don't touch me with your dirty hands. No. Hubby, listen to my explanation. Zhao Meishue's face was full of panic, and her tears fell silently. Nangong Chuan took a deep breath and suppressed the pain in his chest. All right, I'll give you a chance to explain. Facing all of this, Nangong Uni could only sneer mockingly from the side. Just now, Nangong Chuan had accused him indiscriminately. Now that the evidence was conclusive, he still wanted to deceive himself and give Zhao Meishue a chance to explain herself. These 2 people really loved each other, and they were the villains who tore apart this pair of true love. Hong Wan couldn't stand it anymore. She kindly reminded him, it's already a fact that your daughter isn't your biological daughter. There's no use in your explanation. We could do a blood test. Darling. Nangong Uni hugged Hong Wan's waist and smiled. There's no blood test now, only a paternity test. Chapter 2204. Zhao Meishue's body gradually collapsed. Nangong Uni was right, there was still a DNA test. How could she deny it? A DNA test would be able to prove that Nangong Lan was not her daughter. Hubby, I know I was wrong. Zhao Meishue tugged at Nangong Chuan's sleeve and cried, I was blinded by greed. That's why I made a mistake. I really love you. You must believe me. Nangong Chuan's face turned from green to white, then from white to green. He clenched his fists tightly. You mean these things are all true? You made me a cuckold, and the one I've doted on for more than 10 years isn't my daughter? Hubby, please forgive me. I know I was wrong. Zhao Meishue hugged Nangong Chuan's thigh tightly. Just give me one more chance. I will definitely not make a mistake again. B*TCH. Nangong Chuan grabbed Zhao Meishue's hair and slammed her head against the wall. I've treated you well. I even forced my wife to death for you. How dare you make me a cuckold? I'm going to kill you. You B*TCH. At that moment, Nangong Chuan's eyes were bloodshot as he angrily slammed Zhao Meishue's head. Zhao Meishue's head was soon bleeding and blood flowed all over the floor. Enough! Seeing Nangong Chuan's actions, Master Nangong bellowed angrily. Do you really want to kill her? If you kill her, you'll be shot yourself. Divorce her immediately and hand her over to the police. Let the police handle her for murder. She can forget about leaving prison for the rest of her life. This was attempted murder. If he found someone to say a few words, it would be normal for him to be sentenced to life imprisonment. Nangong Chuan's body went limp, and he collapsed to the floor. He clutched his head in pain. What had he done all these years? Suddenly, a shrill scream came from downstairs. By the time everyone reacted, Nangong Lan had already rushed up. When she saw Zhao Meishue lying in a pool of blood, her eyes were filled with anger. Dad, why is Mom so heavily injured? Who hurt her? I hurt her. Nangong Chuan clenched his fists tightly. His eyes were still bloodshot and filled with anger. Daddy, Nangong Lan screamed in disbelief. Why did you hurt Mother? Why did you do this? You heartless. Pa. Before she could finish her sentence, Nangong Chuan slapped her across the face. Nangong Lan opened her eyes wide in shock. All these years, her father had never lifted a finger, and now he actually hit her? Could it be that he had a mistress and abandoned them? You dare to scold me? Your mother is the real bitch. She made me a cuckold. Nangong Chuan's eyes were bloodshot. His gaze slowly turned toward the man beside him. This man is your real father. Don't call me that in the future. I find it disgusting. When Nangong Chuan heard the recording, he already knew that the naked man in front of him was Zhao Meishue's adulterer. He was Nangong Lan's real father. Sure enough, after hearing this, Nangong Lan's eyes immediately widened. What did you say? That's impossible. I'm the daughter of the Nangong family. I'm not the daughter of this wild man. This is your mother admitting it herself. You're her bastard child after she had an affair. Nangong Chuan gritted his teeth and his knuckles cracked. He used all his strength to control himself from throwing a punch at Nangong Lan. Chapter 22:05. Nangong Lan felt as if she had stepped on the sky. She staggered and fell to the ground with a bang. Her face was deathly pale. She wasn't her father's daughter. She was just a product of an affair. No. Nangong Lan went completely crazy. She rushed towards Zhao Meishue, who was also paralyzed on the ground. Tell me that none of this is true. I'm the eldest daughter of the Nangong family. I'm not a bastard. Lan Zhao Meishue's throat was choked. She knew that everything was over. Tell me that Nangong Chuan is my father. Hurry. Faced with Nangong Lan's heart-wrenching scream, Zhao Meishue closed her eyes helplessly. Her face was covered with tears. Nangong Lan staggered again. She let go of Zhao Meishue. She laughed and said in a despairing tone, I don't have a mother like you anymore. She glared at Zhao Meishue fiercely and turned to leave the villa. Before she left, she glanced at Nangong Yuni and Hong Lan. Wait, Nangong Yuni shouted coldly. Nangong Lan stopped in her tracks. She choked and said, What else do you want? Now that the Nangong family has been snatched away by you, are you still not satisfied? Firstly, I am the rightful successor of the Nangong family. What do you mean by snatched away by me? Secondly, you also participated in the plot to kill grandfather. What? At this moment, everyone's eyes turned to Nangong Yuni. Even the old man was in disbelief. It was understandable that Zhao Meishue wanted to harm him. However, even though he was biased towards Nangong Yuni, he had never mistreated Nangong Lan. After all, she was part of the Nangong family's bloodline. Furthermore, based on the situation just now, Nangong Lan didn't know that she was an illegitimate daughter. If that was the case, why did she want to harm him? The recording just now was only part of it. There was another part before that. Nangong Yuni laughed coldly and rewound the recording. Two voices could be heard in the empty villa. Mom, why is that old thing not dead yet? Did the people you sent not hit him hard enough? Logically speaking, such heavy injuries shouldn't be able to heal. Who was that Yin Luo Feng? How did you manage to save the heavily injured old man? I know Yin Luo Feng. She's also a rather famous student of Huaxia University. It's said that she also went missing in the explosion 5 years ago. I didn't expect her to come back with Nangong Yuni. There was more conversation after that, but no one was in the mood to listen to it. Their faces were ugly, and the entire villa was silent. Nangong Lan's body began to tremble, and her face became even paler. She widened her beautiful eyes in fear as she looked at Nangong Yuni. Bitch! Nangong Chuan was the first to regain his senses. With a roar, he charged in front of Nangong Lan and slapped her face, causing her to fall to the ground. Blood trickled down from the corner of her mouth, and her head was buzzing. She could not come back to her senses at all. How could this be? How could Nangong Yuni have a recording of her conversation with Nyangqin? Impossible! This is impossible! Suddenly, Nangong Lan crawled up as if she had gone mad. She screamed and pounced towards Nangong Yuni. It must be you. Nangong Yuni, you must have snuck the recording pen into the villa. I want you to die a horrible death. Bang! Unfortunately, before she could reach Nangong Yuni, she was sent flying by a kick from Nangong Yuni. Her body rolled on the ground a few times before stopping, but she no longer had the strength to get up. Chapter 22:06. Yuni, call the police. After saying this, the old man closed his eyes. Even Nangong Chuan didn't stop him. Nangong Yuni looked at Zhao Meishue and her daughter, who were paralyzed on the ground, and dialed the police number without hesitation. Then, he walked out with Hong Lan. Yin Luo Feng was still waiting for them. From afar, Nangong Yuni could see the man and woman standing under the tree. The two of them were as beautiful as a painting, quiet and distant, completely out of place in this noisy environment. Yun Luofeng. He stopped in his tracks and looked at the woman in front of him. A trace of absent-mindedness flashed in his eyes. If it wasn't for Yin Luofeng, perhaps he wouldn't have been able to take down Zhao Meishue and her daughter so easily. Let's go. Yin Luofeng shrugged, a smile on his lips. Yun Xiao stood by her side, his gaze on the woman. In the entire world, she was the only one there. All right, I've already found out where Shuedong's pharmacy is. Nangong Yuni raised his eyebrows, as if thinking of an old friend. A trace of a smile appeared in his handsome eyes. Shui family's pharmacy. A bookworm wearing square glasses was sitting behind the counter in boredom. The entire pharmacy seemed very quiet and desolate. No one had stepped in the entire day. The bookworm sighed and raised his head to look at the quiet pharmacy with a bitter smile on his face. The competition is too intense now. It seems like this pharmacy won't be able to continue. Just as the bookworm finished speaking, he suddenly saw someone walk in. He hurriedly stood up to welcome them. What medicinal herbs are you looking to buy? What? It's been 5 years. Bookworm, don't you recognize us? The familiar voice made the bookworm raise his head in surprise. When he saw the familiar face in front of him, he suddenly froze. You are Nangong Yuni? Not just me. There's also Yin Luofeng. Nangong Yuni laughed heartily and said, although they weren't classmates with the bookworm, they were still friends. Back then, before they left, they had many meals together. Although their relationship wasn't iron, it was still worth befriending. Bookworm rubbed his eyes, and a look of surprise flashed across his gentle face. He looked at the beautiful woman beside him and said with a trembling voice, You didn't die? That's for sure. Right? Let me introduce you. This is my wife, Hong Wan. The other is Yin Luofeng's husband, Yin Xiao. The bookworm was even more shocked. The two of them had disappeared for 5 years. Who would have thought that they would find a partner when they came back? Nangong, you talk to him first. Yin Xiao and I will take a break first. Yin Luofeng minded her own business and poured a cup of tea for herself and Yin Xiao, then casually sat down. She had already explained the following matters to Nangong Yuni, so Nangong Yuni should know how to handle it. Shuedong, how have you been these past few years? Nangong Yuni hooked his arm around Shuedong's shoulder and asked. Shuedong smiled bitterly. After graduation, I listened to my father and inherited the pharmacy. But now there are too many pharmacies, and the pressure of competition is too great. I can't make ends meet. By the way, what happened to you back then? Isn't he dead? Have you seen our bodies? Nangong Yuni rolled his eyes. Yes, he was dead, but his body had also disappeared. So, now that he had appeared, he couldn't possibly admit to this problem. This time, Yin Luofeng and I came to help you. Nangong Yuni curled his lips and smiled handsomely. Chapter 2207. Help me. Shuedong was dumbfounded. How are they going to help him? Yin Luofeng has some special herbs. If you take them out, how long will it take for you to become #1 in China? What? Shuedong didn't understand what this meant. For example, there's a medicine that can increase a person's strength. A weak person can instantly become 100 times stronger. For example, if you catch a cold, a stock of medicine can immediately cure you without any side effects. Also, if you're stabbed, as long as you're breathing, you can be saved. Yin Luofeng's medicine seemed to have this effect. Oh, right, there were many that helped people cultivate. Unfortunately, there were no cultivators in China, so those medicine were naturally useless. As for what Shuedong said, he could have as many as he wanted. Boom! Shuedong's head was about to explode. Was there really such a magical medicine in the world? Why hadn't he heard of it before? If there really is such a medicine, I reckon it can become #1 in China in less than 10 years. 10 years. Yin Luofeng slowly stood up from the chair. That's too long. I can't wait that long. 1 year. In 1 year, I want this pharmacy to become #1 in China. Shuedong was conflicted. 1 year was too short. He didn't have much confidence. Moreover, this kind of magical medicine definitely needed to be appraised before it could be sold. Just this alone would take a month. Thinking of this, Shuedong spoke his mind. Certificate? That's no problem. I'll get my grandfather to help me get it. The country doesn't have to worry about it. With Nangong Uni's guarantee, Shuedong heaved a sigh of relief. I'll try. Okay. Yin Luofeng curled his lips. Change the pharmacy's name to Miracle Doctor Pharmacy. We only sell Chinese medicine, not Western medicine. In reality, Yin Luofeng had no feelings for Western medicine. She felt that with China's 5,000 years of history and the ancient Hua Ta, how could Western medicine compare to Chinese medicine? Unfortunately, Chinese medicine had declined. Nowadays, there were too few people who could truly learn Chinese medicine. That was why Chinese medicine couldn't compare to Western medicine. Therefore, when Yun Luofeng was in Huaxia University, his course was Chinese medicine. Also, you'll be the manager of this pharmacy. My teacher, Fu Rue, was once a Chinese medicine professor at China University. Hire him to manage the pharmacy. Both of your salaries will be 10% of the pharmacy's shares. Shuedong hurriedly nodded. He had heard of Fu Rue's name when he was in university. Unfortunately, it was exposed that he had forced a female student to leave the university. However, his medical skills were very high. Later, Nangong will bring the herbs to be appraised. Once we have the certificate, the pharmacy will immediately open for business. A cold light flashed across Yun Luofeng's eyes. There was another reason why she used this method to earn money, and that was because her so-called uncle opened a pharmaceutical company. He even cooperated with several major hospitals. Then today, she would make sure that his company could not continue to operate. She wanted him to pay back what he owed her. A year passed in a flash. During this year, Yin Luofeng didn't just stay in Huaxia. She would occasionally return to the 7 continents to stay for a while. Ever since she found out about the passage between the 2 continents, she could come and go as she pleased. Of course, there was a specific reason why she wanted to open the passage. That was only someone who was a true god could open the passage. Chapter 2208. Yin Medicine Factory. In a luxurious office, Yin Tianqi slammed the documents in his hand on the desk and looked at the person standing in front of him with an ashen face. Why is the performance so bad this year? It's not even 1/10 of the previous years. President, a place called the Miracle Doctor Medicine Hall, has appeared recently. Many people are going there because of its reputation. Even those with minor colds don't go to the hospital anymore. However, our medicine company only works with the hospital. Now that the hospital is not doing well, our performance has declined. The marketing department head is a middle-aged woman wearing a pair of black glasses. She rubbed her eyes and said seriously, in the past year, Yin Tianqi had hired a mistress and kept it a secret from his wife. Why would he care about the company's affairs? Miracle Doctor Medicine Hall? Yin Tianqi sneered. I can tell that it's a deceptive pharmacy. There are actually people who believe it. Where did the Miracle Doctor come from? I'm going to expose the true face of the Miracle Doctor Medicine Hall now. Yin Tianqi stood up angrily and walked out of the office quickly. Miracle Doctor Medicine Hall. Ever since the business license was issued a year ago, the Medicine Hall was deserted for a period of time. After all, no one believed in the name of the Miracle Doctor. However, it just so happened that Elder Nangong's old comrade's grandson was injured by a gunshot. It was extremely dangerous. Elder Nangong remembered the existence of the godly Doctor Medicine Hall and hurriedly came to ask for a spirit medicine to save his comrade's life. The operation to remove the bullet was dangerous and could easily cost the life. However, because of the existence of the spiritual medicine, the grandson of the old comrade survived unscathed. Since then, the Miracle Doctor Medicine Hall became famous everywhere. In addition, the spiritual medicine that could strengthen one's body was sought after by thousands of people. However, not long after, some of the powerful spiritual medicine that could strengthen one's body was no longer sold. The reason was that Yin Luofeng had provided those spiritual medicine to the country. When Yin Luofeng transmigrated to the Roaring Dragon continent, she did not care about the continent at all. That was because she did not have any sense of belonging to the continent. However, China was different. This was the place where she was born and raised. It was obvious that her feelings for China were not ordinary. If they had those elixirs, China's army would become even stronger and foreign enemies would no longer be able to invade. Elder Nangong was very grateful for Yun Luofeng's actions, and the country's leaders were even more excited. In addition, Elder Nangong mentioned Yun Luofeng's strength, so the country's leaders directly gave her the title of Major General. If Huaxia had such a powerhouse, why would it not grow stronger? It was also because of the strong support from the country that the Miracle Doctor Medicine Hall could develop so quickly. There were even some international friends who came because of its fame. At this moment, outside the medicine hall, the people who came to seek medical advice had formed a long line. No one argued. They were all waiting quietly. From afar, Yun Tianqi saw the long line of people. He frowned and wanted to cut through the line. Why did you cut the queue? His behavior angered an old man. The old man looked at him angrily and said, "Can't you see that we're all lining up here? If you want to ask for medicine, hurry up and line up at the back. Don't disturb us." Yun Tianqi's expression changed. "Sir, just by hearing the name of this medicine hall, I can tell that it's a scam. So many of you are willing to be scammed?" The old man looked at Yun Tianqi disdainfully. "Young man, have you seen the news? This medicine hall is very famous. It can even cure cancer patients. The country's leaders are especially fond of it. It can even cure cancer? What a joke." Yun Tianqi smiled mockingly. "Sir, you must have been scammed. I'm sure that this medicine hall is a scam." Chapter 2209. He originally thought that the people around him would definitely feel curious and ask him about it. At that time, he could casually make up some scandalous information to make everyone suspicious. Unexpectedly, as soon as he finished speaking, the strong man next to him pushed him hard and said angrily, "Get out of here if you don't want to see a doctor. Don't waste our time." "That's right. How dare you frame the immortal medicine hall when you don't even know the situation? Just go back and watch the news. I think I've seen this guy before. By the way, I remember now. He's the president of the Yun Medical Company. I heard that the Yun Medical Company's benefits have been declining recently. Could it be that the president deliberately framed us to gain benefits?" Ha ha. One of the onlookers recognized Yun Tianqi and immediately mocked him. In an instant, everyone's eyes were focused on Yun Tianqi's face, which made him feel like his face was on fire. "I can't believe he's the president of the Yun family. I remember that I took the Yun family's medicine from the hospital at that time. Not only did I not get better, but it also caused inflammation. It's useless to complain. The Yun family's medicine is rubbish. I'll never use the medicine made by the Yun family again. I don't want to die from it." Their words made Yun Tianqi's face even more unsightly. He desperately pushed the people in front of him away and quickly fled not far away. When he returned to the Yun family, he immediately called for a meeting and asked all the senior executives to attend. At the moment, Yun Tianqi was a little angry in the meeting room. He swept the crowd with his sharp eyes and shouted angrily, "Why didn't anyone tell me that such a big thing happened to the Yun family? If it weren't for the year-end audit, he wouldn't have known that the Yun family's performance this year was so bad." The senior executives looked at each other. They had told Yun Tianqi, but he had been obsessed with a woman for the past year and had sex with her every day. How could he care about the Yun family's affairs? Moreover, Yun Tianqi had thought that the Yun family could enjoy life without any worries now that it had developed so much. He had never thought that someone would be able to push the Yun family down. A middle-aged man walked out and said, "President, I think our top priority now is to restore our reputation." Yun Tianqi fell silent. He was able to develop the Yun family to where it was today because of the wealth left behind by Yun Luofeng's parents and the strength of Li Cuicui's family. More importantly, he was not stupid. If he hadn't been addicted to beauty, he wouldn't have allowed others to take advantage of the opportunity to destroy the Yun family. Actually, this medicinal hall has a very high reputation. However, it has only been developed for a year. It can't be compared to the financial resources of our Yun family. The middle-aged man smiled. "So I suggest that you buy the Miracle Doctor's medicinal hall." Yun Tianqi's eyes darkened. "What is the identity of the boss of the Miracle Doctor Pharmacy?" "I've already looked into this. The boss is just a student who graduated from a Chinese university. His family is very ordinary, and his ancestors opened a pharmacy. As for the doctor in charge of the pharmacy, He is the famous Professor Fu Ru. Professor Fu Ru? Yin Tianqi's lips curled into a sneer. Back then, when he chased Yin Luofeng away to an orphanage, it was this old man who took her in. Don't be in a hurry to buy it. Go spread the news that the doctor in the pharmacy was suspected of raping a female student. With such an immoral doctor, will the pharmacy still have any reputation to speak of? At that time, he would act as a savior and buy the pharmacy. The boss of the pharmacy would definitely be very grateful to him. Chapter 22:10. Yes, CEO. Soon, the meeting ended. Everyone went back to their own duties. No one talked about the contents of the meeting anymore. However, a few days later, a piece of news instantly spread across the headlines of various newspapers. Professor Fu Ru of Huaxi University is suspected of sexually abusing a female student and has been expelled from the university. He is now the chief physician of the Miracle Doctors Medicine Hall. Is the character of such a doctor reliable? Can you still buy medicine from the medicine hall without worry? Once the news was reported, it spread by word of mouth. Hence, the already bustling Miracle Doctors Medicine Hall suddenly became even more crowded. Countless reporters surrounded the entrance, blocking the road tightly. At this moment, in the medicine hall, Xue Dong was sweating profusely. If it wasn't for a few people working in the medicine hall blocking them, the group of reporters would have already rushed in. Even so, Xue Dong still heard the sharp voices of the reporters in the medicine hall. Boss Xue, why did your medicine hall hire such a person with no medical ethics to be the chief physician? I seriously suspect that there's a problem with the quality of the medicinal herbs in your medicine hall. Someone who even dares to sexually abuse a student. How can he be a good chief physician? Please give us an explanation, and also give the people an explanation. In the medicine hall, Fu Ru's lips kept trembling. He wanted to stand up and leave several times, but he was firmly held down by Xue Dong. Teacher, you mustn't go. These people are waiting for you to go out. Sit here for now. I've already called Yin Luofeng. She'll think of a way. In the past year, the medicinal hall had experienced countless storms, but he had managed to walk through all of them safely. But now, such a serious problem had occurred, and he was no longer able to control the situation. He had no choice but to find Yin Luofeng. Excuse me. At this moment, a young voice suddenly came from outside the crowd. Perhaps the voice was very childish, but it made the reporters turn their heads in surprise. Behind the crowd, two little children who looked like they were carved from jade walked over hand in hand. These two children were very beautiful, so beautiful that it made people forget about the problems in an instant. Seeing that the two little fellows were about to enter the medicine hall, a reporter quickly stopped them. Don't you know that there's a problem with this medicine hall? Yin Yinfeng looked up at the female reporter and said expressionlessly, What does it have to do with you that I want to go in? You? The female reporter was so angry that her face was ashen. This little guy was so beautiful, but he had no manners. She immediately gritted her teeth. I have good intentions, but you are so rude. Let me tell you, the medicine in this pharmacy is poisonous. If you want your whole family to die, you can go in and eat it. Originally, it was just because of the rumor that Fu Ru was a teacher, but now it had become that the herbs in the pharmacy were poisoned. He even cursed Yin Yinfeng's entire family to die. Yin Yinfeng stopped in his tracks and turned to look at the female reporter. I don't have manners, but do you? The pharmacy is a business. Is it polite for you to block someone else's door and speak rudely? You keep saying that the medicinal herbs are poisonous. If I take a bite now and I don't die, will you die? Yin Yinfeng wasn't polite to such a vicious person. There was a sneer on his face. Big brother, Mother said that there's no need to be polite to such people. If they don't want to leave, then beat them up. Yin Shutian blinked his big eyes and turned to look at the group of reporters. Also, Mother said that 3 days later, she will clear Grandmaster Fu Ru's name. Of course, these things are only explained to the people who come to the medicine hall to buy medicine, not to these reporters. Chapter 22:11. The group of reporters was annoyed by Yun Shutian, especially the female reporter who started the fight. Her face had already turned ashen as she looked at the two children angrily. Two wimpy brats are spouting nonsense here. You want to chase us away? Where are your parents? Ask your parents to come out. Brother. Yin Shutian pursed his lips and turned to look at Yin Yinfeng. Whoosh! At that moment, the female reporter felt a gust of wind blow past her, and the beautiful boy in luxurious clothes had disappeared without a trace. Just as she was about to look for him, Yin Yinfeng had already appeared behind her and kicked the female reporter, sending her flying. Everyone was frightened and screamed. A group of reporters quickly took out their cameras and started taking pictures. It was obvious that there would be another headline tomorrow. The son of the miracle doctor's medicine hall boss publicly beat up a reporter. However, Yin Yinfeng didn't care so much. Grandmaster Fu Ru's injustice would be cleared sooner or later. As for the female reporter, it was time for his mother to check her identity. If she was just a reporter, she wouldn't be so aggressive. She wasn't just a simple reporter. Ignoring the crowd behind him, Yin Yinfeng walked into the medicine hall. His delicate face revealed a smile as he walked towards Fu Ru. Grandmaster, Mother is asking you to go back for dinner. Fu Ru was stunned. He looked at the reporters outside the door and finally nodded. Okay. He stood up from the chair and mustered his courage to walk out the door. When he walked to the door, the reporters all reacted and quickly took pictures of his old and dispirited appearance. Some reporters wanted to go up and make things difficult for him, but they remembered Yin Yinfeng's kick just now, and their thoughts were immediately extinguished. Fu Ru heaved a sigh of relief when he saw that the reporters didn't surround him. He quickly passed through the crowd and walked towards the car behind the crowd. At this moment, Yin Xiao had just prepared the food and placed it on the table when Fu Ru walked in from outside. As soon as he stepped into the house, he smelled the aroma of the food and swept away the haze from before. Luofeng, your husband's cooking is very good, haha. Fu Ru was sincerely happy for Yin Luofeng. This man was not only very powerful, but he also had excellent cooking skills. Even the chefs in five-star restaurants were far inferior to him. Most importantly, he was obedient. If Yin Luofeng told him to go east, he wouldn't go west. If Yin Luofeng told him to chase a cat, he wouldn't chase a dog. There were very few outstanding and obedient men in this world. The only flaw was that he was too quiet. Of course, this kind of reticence was only seen by others. In front of Yin Luofeng, he never stopped smiling. Even if he didn't speak, his eyes seemed to be talking to her. Yinfeng, how is it? Yin Luofeng raised his brows and looked at Yin Yinfeng. Yin Yinfeng pouted. Mother, those reporters are too despicable. They even cursed me. I think it's better for us to just kill them. The corner of Fu Ru's mouth twitched. Fortunately, after a year, he was already used to Yin Yinfeng's shocking words. This is China. Bai glanced at Yin Yinfeng. You can't kill people casually, understand? Oh. Yin Yinfeng nodded unwillingly. He still preferred the seven continents continent. In a place where strength reigned supreme, the fist was the strongest. Unlike Huaxia, where life was too stifling.